Chapter 1631. Half-immortal realm. Qin Nan's expression remained the same as he turned his head around. Not far away from him, there were 18 magnificent immortal rays. Each immortal glow had reached the Earth immortal realm. Among them, 5 of them had reached the peak Earth God realm. Regardless of their identities, such a lineup was not to be underestimated in the Shangxingtian's small immortal realm. Bao, Mr. Qin, please hand over the trunk. Long Chan placed his palms together with a peaceful aura. If it were anyone else, they would not waste their time talking. They would just attack straight away. However, Qin Nan must have a formidable faction behind him considering his cultivation. You want the trunk, huh? Give it to me yourself if you have the gut. Qin Nan said calmly. As expected of a peerless genius, you still dare to be so stubborn under such circumstances. Let's see what else you have up your sleeves. An old man in the 5th layer Earth immortal realm wore a cold grin. He shoved his palm forward without performing a hand seal. The aura of the heavens and earth shifted at that instant. The rift above Qin Nan turned into a towering mountain crushing down on Qin Nan in a terrifying manner. Gu Zhini and the others shook their heads upon seeing this. They were utterly convinced by this Qin Nan's strength, but they were worried that he did not know how to appreciate their kindness. Now that it had come to this, not only would he lose the trunk, he would most likely die too. You dare to bully the weak in our Shangxingtian small immortal realm, aren't you looking down on us? Right at this moment, a cold and indifferent voice sounded from the clouds. The Bliss Immortal Emperor stepped out from the rift. He did not conceal his terrifying aura of a peerless ruler. It surged across the area within a few 100,000 li. The entire land instantly fell into a great tremor. A peerless ruler? Gu Zhini, Long Chan, and the rest of the Earth Immortals were dumbfounded. They could not believe what they were seeing. They did not expect Qin Nan to be protected by a peerless ruler. Even the strongest peerless genius among the core disciples of their supreme Taoism factions would not receive such treatment. You people of the supreme Taoism factions are pretty bold. You dare to come here when I didn't. Another cold laugh exploded in the rift. The Ground Spirit Immortal Emperor and the Red Zither Immortal Emperor arrived simultaneously. The whole place fell into chaos because of their arrival. This time, they did not send their will here, but their true selves. 3 peerless rulers? At that instant, the eyes of Gu Zhini, Long Chan, and the rest of the Earth Immortals were filled with great astonishment. A peerless ruler was protected by 3 peerless rulers? How shocking was this Qin Nan's identity to be able to achieve such a feat? Piss off! The Bliss Immortal Emperor snapped coldly. A huge wave of immortal glow surged across the place and struck Gu Zhini, the Earth Immortals, and the rest of the Earth Immortals. A series of muffled groans could be heard as their figures were knocked into the void and disappeared. Although the Bliss Immortal Emperor did not manage to kill all of them, he still used quite a bit of his strength. It was certain that all of them would be severely injured. Seniors, many thanks. Qin Nan brought his fists together. His heart was filled with warmth. This time, he was quite surprised too. He did not expect the 3 immortal emperors to show up after he transmitted his voice to them, and they even sent their true selves. The Bliss Immortal Emperor no longer wore a cold expression. He wore a calm smile and said, "Don't be so courteous with us, well done." The Ground Spirit Immortal Emperor harumphed too and said, "What era are we in now? Why are you still using such a trick? Cut the crap, you two." The Red Zither Immortal Emperor rolled her eyes and said softly, "Qin Nan, you don't have to worry about the immortal ancient places. Just try your best. We will follow you until you ascend as an immortal." The 3 of them were extremely cautious after the incident. Qin Nan was lucky that he was not ambushed right away after he left the immortal ancient places. What would they do if they failed to make it in time? Even if they sent their will, they might not make it in time. In the Shangxingtian small immortal realm, The will of a peerless ruler was not as intimidating as the will of a nine heavens supreme. I'll leave it to Senior then. Qin Nan did not reject the offer after a slight hesitation. Once he went to the second immortal ancient place, or even the third one, the trouble he would get himself into might be a lot worse than this one. If he had just obtained a shocking treasure and it was snatched away by someone else, then the loss would outweigh the gain. Qin Nan continued on his journey. The three immortal emperors hid in the rift. Ordinary people would not be able to see them. Time to refine the trunk. Qin Nan released the tree trunk and ignited it with the flames of his god force. There was no need for him to hide anything in front of the three immortal emperors. After all, they would not be able to see the divine battle Dao runes in his body. A few hours later, the trunk was thoroughly refined. It turned into an indescribable force that entered Qin Nan's body. The divine battle Dao runes that were spreading to other parts of his body began to spread again. They slowly came to a stop after covering his heart. Not long after, every part of his body was covered in the divine battle Dao runes. At the same time, ancient words began to surface on his bones. A great Dao aura echoed in Qin Nan's body. The Dao crystal in his dantian kept emitting a strong Dao glow as if it was being summoned. Even though Qin Nan could not see through the secrets of the words, he knew it was the Dao of the divine battle god. There's still some energy left. I can use it to improve my god force. Qin Nan directed the energy with a thought. Not long after, a series of blasts came from his body. His aura skyrocketed once again. Only his god force was not only crystalline, it would occasionally emit wisps of immortal glow with an immortal intent. He was basically half a step away from achieving the human immortal realm. As for the three peerless rulers in the rift, they were not too surprised by it. They had gone through a lot when they ascended as immortals too. Besides, Qin Nan had also merged with a rare artifact of that level. Time gradually passed. A day later, many peerless geniuses, heaven gods, earth gods, and human gods took part in the immortal ancient places to compete for the loot. Qin Nan finally came to a stop too. The nine-dragon mystical realm was not far away from him. Chapter 1632. The Dance of the Seven Dragons among the immortal ancient places. The nine-dragon mystical realm had existed for a long time. Its birth was full of mysteries. There were two theories that were widely spread. The first one was that it was a conspiracy set up by the ancient dragon tribe to learn more about the geniuses of the human race. The second one was that a few tens of thousands of years ago, 9 peerless dragon immortals had infuriated a 9 heavens supreme and were killed on the spot. After their corpses fell to the ground, they resonated with the great Tao and underwent a mystical change, forming the mystical realm. In comparison, most people believed the second theory was more reliable. They also believed the succession of the dragon immortals was located in the 9-dragon mystical realm. If anyone could claim the succession, not only would they ascend as an immortal and acquire the successions of the 9-dragon immortals, they might even find the ancient dragon tribe that had disappeared. Qin Nan, the 9-dragon mystical realm, was opened 2 hours ago. The cultivators that gathered here must have all gone inside. The Bliss Immortal Emperor suddenly transmitted his voice. It was opened 2 hours ago? Qin Nan was startled. The entrance of the 9-dragon mystical realm was a giant arched door in the shape of a dragon. In front of it stood 3 magnificent ancient cities. When he was still a distance away from the city, he could already hear some noises coming from the cities. Judging from the noises, there were quite a lot of cultivators in the 3 cities. It must be the 9-palace golden immortal sect setting up bets again. Qin Nan's lips twisted slightly. He immediately turned into a ray of light and flew into the arched door. What he didn't know was that when his figure passed by the 3 cities, the 3 of them had already disappeared. That guy is the god of misfortune, Qin Nan. The god of misfortune, Qin Nan, is here too? Inform the elders at once. Very well, Another impressive peerless genius is here. The bets are surely going to expand. A few whispers broke out in the corners of the cities. Qin Nan was totally unaware of it. A few moments later, he flew into the nine-dragon mystical realm under the gaze of the three immortal emperors. He frowned as soon as he entered the place. Under his feet was an ancient dojo with a circumference of over 300 zhang. There was nothing special in the distance. It was a vast land filled with ravines and countless corpses. Presumably, it had been through countless battles. However, Qin Nan sharply sensed an invisible barrier looming around the dojo. Moreover, the aura of the barrier was extremely astonishing, far exceeding the heavenly deity realm. Even with his cultivation, he might not necessarily be able to break through it. In other words, he was trapped as soon as he entered. Roar! At that instant, the cry of a dragon echoed above the dojo. A golden illusionary figure in the shape of a dragon entered Qin Nan's divine sense at lightning speed. Before Qin Nan could react, a voice that carried an astonishingly majesty exploded in his mind. This is the resting place of the dragon immortals. Those who are not fated with the demon clan are not allowed to enter and disturb the dragon immortals. Now, I will teach you a dragon summoning celestial technique. If you are fated with the monster clan, you will be able to unleash its full potential and summon. If you fail to summon, following the imperious voice, countless dragon-shaped runes appeared in Qin Nan's mind and turned into a martial art. The doubts in Qin Nan's heart dissipated too. The nine-dragon mystical realm was different from the other immortal ancient places. Before entering the place, one had to practice the dragon summoning celestial technique. The technique was not too difficult to master, but depending on who was using it, the power it unleashed would differ too. It could summon a red dragon, golden dragon, purple dragon, battle dragon, seven-clawed battle dragon, seven-clawed godly dragon, and 10-clawed immortal dragon. Only those who managed to summon a seven-clawed battle dragon or above were allowed to enter the deeper part of the nine-dragon mystical realm to compete for the succession. If they failed to summon a dragon, they would have to stay in the middle or the outer part. That being said, the higher the grade of the dragon they summoned, the greater the benefits they would receive after entering the deeper part of the place. Interesting. Qin Nan sat with his legs crossed and murmured, "The white-blue flower will start to activate while I'm practicing the dragon summoning celestial technique. Once it's done, I believe the nine-dragon mystical realm will start to change too." At this point, he stopped thinking about it and calmed his mind. Time gradually passed. An hour was gone fairly quickly. Qin Nan's eyes slowly sprang open. He performed a hand seal, summoning 133 illusionary dragons around him. Dragon summoning celestial technique. Qin Nan performed a hand seal and gathered the 133 illusionary dragons on the tip of his finger. He flicked the finger forward. At that instant, wisps of dragon might could be felt coming from the distance. Not long after, the clouds in the sky were dyed purple, as two enormous purple dragons over 1,700 zhang long flew toward him while waving their tails. Only two purple dragon? Is my fate with the ancient dragon tribe that bad? Qin Nan's lips twisted. He immediately activated the Dao crystal and covered his hands with a Dao glow. He yelled, "Time to strike again!" An invisible force burst out of his body. The two purple dragons immediately shattered and turned into purple light that filled the sky. Following it, wisps of battle intent surged into the surroundings like a long river. 7 enormous dragons over 2,000 zhang long with shocking battle intent slowly flew toward Qin Nan. Unlike the two purple dragons, their eyes were fixed on Qin Nan, as if they were inspecting him, as if they were alive instead of dead creatures. Even with the Dao crystal, I can only summon 7 battle dragons? Forget it, let's go deeper first. If the grade of the dragons is that important, I'll just subdue the others. The thought crossed Qin Nan's mind. His figure turned into a ray of light that penetrated the barrier and landed on the head of one of the battle dragons. "Come, bring me deeper." The eyes of the battle dragon and the other 6 battle dragons flickered with anger. They did not expect the man to land on their heads as soon as he arrived. However, before they could go on a rampage, the anger in their eyes vanished when they sensed the unfathomable battle intent that was as vast as the ocean. In the depths of his eyes, a trace of joy flashed. The battle dragons were born to fight. They were willing to be the mounts of geniuses of battle Tao. Roar! Chapter 1633. Stone Pillars of Beasts. Chapter 1641. 9 Dragons. Stone Pillars of Beasts. After flying for some time, Qin Nan saw several giant dragons, each carrying a cultivator. Even though they were only at the outer area, thus the cultivators were not too strong. They were mostly dragons below the battle dragon level, but it was extremely rare to see thousands of dragons flying in the sky. The difference between the scenery in the Land of Immortal Death and the Land of Immortal Death was like the difference between the heavens and earth. What a pity the 9-dragon mystical realm is open too early. Otherwise, the scenery would be 10 times more spectacular. Qin Nan murmured. Time gradually passed. The dragons danced and the cultivators fought against one another. Qin Nan did not take part in the battle. He asked the dragons to move forward. The cultivators were tempted when they saw the 7-headed battle dragon. However, they did not dare to move recklessly. Even though he had no idea how the dragon immortal art determined the grade of the dragons, it was obvious that only extraordinary people were able to acquire a battle dragon or a dragon above it. Roar! A few hours later, when they arrived at the center of the 9-dragon mystical realm, the 7-headed battle dragon suddenly uttered a roar. 23 images appeared in front of Qin Nan. In each picture there was a blurry scene. These are the successions that have already appeared in the center? Qin Nan was astounded. He did not expect the 7-headed battle dragon to have such a function. Let's go to this place. Qin Nan soon pointed at one of the images. The successions that had appeared in the center were no ordinary successions. They were worthy of his attention. The 7-headed battle dragon immediately rose into the air and entered the clouds. It was not until several hours later that they began to slow down. Not far away from Qin Nan were more than 2,000 giant dragons flying in the sky. Most of them were purple dragons. There were more than 50 battle dragons too. Below the dragons was a huge azure lake. In the middle of the lake was a towering stone pillar that was over 3,000 feet wide and over 200,000 feet tall. There were caves of different sizes on the stone pillars. Vast amounts of demonic chi surged within the caves, and there were also beams of divine light flashing continuously. The sounds of explosions from the collision of immortal techniques rang out continuously. Each of the caves contained a certain level of danger, as well as a certain level of legacy. Quite a few cultivators were currently fighting over it. The competition at the top of the cave was the most intense. There were 38 peak heavenly gods there. Wait here. Qin Nan transmitted his thoughts. Golden flames ignited in his eyes. His chi erupted and turned into a towering ray of light that disappeared into the cave at the top. What was unexpected was that although this stone cave looked ordinary from the outside, there was a huge palace inside. It was dazzling in gold and jade, and immortal chi hung down. Inside the palace, there were many figures fighting back and forth. It was incomparably intense. At the front of the hall, there were 3 statues of demonic beasts. They were extremely lifelike and exuded boundless pressure. Especially those gigantic eyes, there was boundless immortal intent flowing within. The 3 statues were the successions. Little Pring Emperor? As soon as Qin Nan entered the hall, several divine senses landed on his divine sense. He was about to make his move when he noticed a familiar figure. Qin Nan? Wan Shao, who was fighting 8 peak heaven gods on his own, turned around. His eyes widened when he saw Qin Nan. He had been waiting at the Nine-Dragon mystical realm since he failed to return from the land of immortal death. To his surprise, Qin Nan was here too. Wan Xiao, who's that guy? If his cultivation isn't too bad, let him join us. We'll give him 10% of the loot. On the other side, a young man in a white robe who was fighting against many cultivators said calmly. He had an innate pride between his brows. The young man was the same as Guzhini. He was from the Extreme Living Gate, one of the 13 supreme Taoism factions. He was a core disciple and a peerless genius. His name was Bai Fu. He had teamed up with Wan Xiao after discovering the rock pillar of beasts. Wan Xiao's lips twisted upon hearing the words. He was trying to team up with Qin Nan? Qin Nan, just you wait, the grudge between us isn't over yet. Wan Xiao let out a furious roar. He extended his wings and flew toward the other entrance without hesitation. He was well aware of Qin Nan's cultivation. He would not dare to fight Qin Nan even if he was given 10 guts. Wan Xiao is running away? Bai Fu and the rest of the heaven gods were stunned. Who exactly was this Qin Nan? How could Wan Xiao be so scared that he would run away? You've run away twice, and you're still trying to run away the third time? Let's settle the grudge between us here. Qin Nan wore a cold grin. He went up to Wan Xiao's back with a flicker and slammed his hands down with the divine battle seal. His cultivation has grown stronger again? Wan Xiao shuddered as he felt a chill running down his spine. He immediately executed the beast, shaking the 9 heavens without hesitation. Bang! The crowd in the cave heard a groan. Wan Xiao's body slammed heavily into the ground, as if he had been struck by a heavenly hammer. Cracks spread across the ground. Such an outstanding cultivation! Bai Fu and the rest of the cultivators were astounded. Did he just knock out the arrogant Wan Xiao with a single move? Sky-desolating saber art! Qin Nan's blood hair drifted to the wind. He held the heaven-shattering saber and slashed at Wan Xiao's head like a heavenly god of judgment. He had achieved the half-martial immortal realm in the greater success stage of the Tao realm. Even though it was not his strongest attack, it was still extremely terrifying for Wan Xiao. True form, void destruction. Wan Xiao was startled. He immediately transformed into his true form of the golden-winged giant Ping. The feathers on his wings emitted golden glows as if they had turned into godly swords. Bang! A strong gust of wind swept across the hall. Wan Xiao spat out a mouthful of blood. The brilliance of his feathers dimmed. Even though it had managed to block the attack, its body had suffered significant injuries. Everyone, what are you waiting for? Qin Nan isn't only here for me, he's here for the 3 beast statues too. Wan Xiao yelled, if we don't team up against him, none of us will stand a chance. Chapter 1634. The display of potential. Even though this Qin Nan was ridiculously strong, as Wan Xiao had mentioned, they would not be able to claim the 3 beast statues if they did not team up. How could they leave so easily when the successions were right in front of them? Fellow cultivators, listen to my arrangements, we'll set up a formation to deal with him. Bai Fu was the first to transmit his thought. He immediately unleashed a strong aura as he executed the art of Tao seeking and the ultimate life seal. Let's attack together. The rest of the peak heaven gods spread out and fired immortal arts at Qin Nan from all directions. You're pretty smart to know how to incite them. Qin Nan remained calm despite the danger. He glanced at Wan Xiao and said, however, even if they were to team up, they still won't be able to change the outcome. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure turned into countless afterimages as he moved between the various immortal arts and dodged them one by one. Meanwhile, the heaven-shattering saber in his hand fired wisps of saber intents. He was already able to take on 4 peerless geniuses and a bunch of cultivators on his own before he achieved the half-martial immortal realm, let alone his current strength. Bang bang bang! A series of explosions took place. The entire hall began to shake violently. Even the cultivators in the caves below the stone pillars seemed to have felt it, and their gazes became cold. Destruction battle fist. Qin Nan pushed forward and threw a punch forward. 5 peak heaven gods were startled, yet they were struck by the fist intent before they could react. Following cries of agony, they were knocked out of the hall. Sky stride blow. Qin Nan did not stop there. He suddenly showed up in front of the cultivators and slashed forward. Cries of agony took place once again. 100 stars heavenly formation. Bai Fu yelled as he performed a hand seal. The rest of the cultivators immediately surrounded Qin Nan. In an instant, countless runes spread out in the hall, and the surroundings turned pitch black. Hundreds of thousands of light dots floated at the end of this pitch-black darkness, making one feel as if they were in a starry sky. However, the starry sky wasn't a beautiful sight. Every light spot was shooting out beams of light at Qin Nan. They were densely packed and endless. Even with Qin Nan's cultivation, he still felt a sense of pressure. Qin Nan, prepare to die. Little Pring Emperor Wan Shao made his comeback. Countless rays of light descended from the sky onto his figure, causing his aura to skyrocket to a terrifying level. Extreme life image. Bai Fu attacked as well. As he bathed in the light, his body rapidly expanded, transforming into a giant. Thousands of extreme growth dharma patterns extended from his arms and chest. The 100 battle Heavenly Dipper formation not only created a void to trap the enemy, but also drew upon the power of the 100 battle Heavenly Dipper to kill the enemy. It could also strengthen the person who cast the formation. Forbidden Taboo Seal. Forbidden Taboo Flesh, activate. Qin Nan, who was dodging the rays of light, performed a hand seal without hesitation, causing his aura to double, resulting in a magnificent sight. Facing the pincer attack from the 2 peerless geniuses, he took the initiative to step forward and threw a punch forward. Bang! The spacious, pitch-black rift shuddered violently. Little Ping Emperor Wan Shao and Bai Fu's figures shuddered slightly, before they were knocked over 30 steps back by the formidable force. Their chi and blood fluctuated wildly. Even with the buffs, they still stood no chance against Qin Nan in a head-on clash. Trying to trap me with a mere formation? Break! Qin Nan let out a roar. He directed all his will into the heaven-shattering saber, turning it into a shocking saber intent that slashed at the light dots. Whoosh! The spacious darkness was torn apart. The specks of light were also torn into pieces. However, Qin Nan's attack was not over yet. His eyes unleashed a formidable power that turned into a fiery fist that slammed forward. The formation completely shattered into pieces. Bai Fu, Wan Shao, and the cultivators groaned in pain as they received a heavy blow to their chest. They were knocked a few steps back with blood on their lip. The formation was different from ordinary formations. Once it was broken, the people that set up the formation would suffer a great blow too. Whoosh! At that instant, before the cultivators could collect their thoughts, several icy saber intents swept across the sky and slashed a few cultivators into a bloody mist. Qin Nan's figure was emitting a solid crimson glow. He was staring at the crowd like a blood-soaked demon. "Piss off if you don't want to die," he said calmly, yet his voice was extremely intimidating. The eyes of the peak heaven gods flickered with fear. They did not dare to have any further thoughts and quickly left the place. When they first saw Qin Nan's murderous aura, they still had the urge to fight him, but after the brief clash, they completely gave up on the thought. They had no doubt that they would die if they continued to fight. "Your cultivation," Wan Zhao's face turned pale. He could not believe his eyes. Even Ding Tianqi and the others would not be able to achieve such a feat in just a few breaths' time. Most importantly, Qin Nan was still not a human immortal. He was only a heaven god, just like him. "Friend Qin Nan, your cultivation is too strong. I'm afraid only 4 or 5 people I know in this Immortal Ascension War are comparable to you." Bai Fu took a few steps back and withdrew his aura. he exclaimed. "I'm not destined to get these two beast statues. I'll be leaving first." Saying this, he turned around and left. However, after taking less than 10 steps, he suddenly turned around. 13 different rare phenomena appeared behind him, resulting in a shocking aura. Sumeru Immortal Art. Bai Fu's figure suddenly fused into one with the 13 phenomena, transforming into a peculiar existence that resembled a stream of light that floated towards the 3 demon statues at an astonishing speed. As a peerless genius, how could he give up so easily when the successions were right in front of him? Death upon the area. Qin Nan did not expect it to happen either. However, he reacted quickly and swung his saber. Wisps of saber intents immediately appeared on Bai Fu's body. Bang bang bang! The light that Bai Fu had turned into dimmed significantly after receiving a great blow. However, he did not slow down at all. Such a strange light, even the saber intent of the heaven-shattering saber can only inflict a certain amount of damage on him. I have to use the Tao Glow. Chapter 1635. Subduing the golden wings, a strange feeling arose in Qin Nan's heart. It was as if the ownerless heaven pattern was telling him that it had taken the first step to unleash its power. Does that mean I can activate the ownerless heaven pattern after refining the Tao runes of the divine god of battle? The thought crossed Qin Nan's mind, but he did not stop there. He performed a hand seal, causing countless Tao glows to merge with the saber intent. Bang! The saber slashed forward. Bai Fu immediately suffered a great impact. He spat out mouthfuls of blood. His figure reappeared and slammed heavily into the ground in the distance. His aura weakened significantly. You've mastered the minor success stage of the Tao realm? Bai Fu and Wan Zhao's eyes flickered with astonishment once again. It was the minor success stage of the Tao realm, something that many peerless rulers had yet to achieve. Ultimate life talisman. Bai Fu soon collected his thoughts. He pinched an immortal talisman without any hesitation and prepared to leave the place. He no longer had any thoughts in his mind. Let's see if I can activate it. Qin Nan was long prepared for it. The ownerless heaven pattern immediately emitted a shocking glow. It flew out of his divine sense and loomed over Bai Fu. What's going on? Bai Fu's pupils shrank to the size of a needle. Before he could say anything, he was sucked into the catalogue by a vast force. The hall fell silent once again. The ownerless heaven pattern returned to Qin Nan's divine sense. Qin Nan immediately looked at it. Apart from the crystal and the white-blue flower, the ownerless heaven pattern now had an additional pattern of the 8 trigrams. A small corner of the pattern had a portrait. It was none other than Bai Fu. What's going on? Even Qin Nan could not help but frown. Bai Fu still had his life force after he turned into a portrait, but he was unable to move, as if he was sealed away. However, was the ownerless heaven pattern's ability to seal away other cultivators? As the thought crossed his mind, a few ancient words suddenly appeared around Bai Fu's portrait. The general outline of the true scriptures of the ultimate life Tao. In addition to it, more ancient words appeared too. General principles of the true scripture of the ultimate life Tao? Wasn't that the extreme living gates art of Tao seeking? Could it be? A thought suddenly appeared in Qin Nan's mind, causing his heart to beat faster. If his speculation was right, the ownerless heaven pattern's power was utterly out of this world. Wan Shao, have you cultivated an art of Tao seeking yet? Qin Nan quickly calmed down and asked. Right now, everything was just a guess. Whether it was true or not, they still had to wait and see. Cultivating the art of Tao seeking? If I had practiced the art of Tao seeking, you wouldn't have defeated me so easily, Wan Shao said while clenching his teeth. Meanwhile, his feathers were slowly spreading. He was waiting for an opportunity to use some tricks and leave this place. You've never cultivated before. Qin Nan pondered for a moment and then said, Even if I haven't cultivated before, I will use you as a test subject today." He summoned the ownerless heaven pattern once again. The man could only watch as he was sucked into the pattern and turned into a second drawing. Qin Nan immediately followed Wan Zhao's gaze. Ancient words appeared beside Wan Zhao's portrait too. The immortal scriptures of the Fuyao Nine Heavens. The ownerless heaven pattern does have such an outstanding ability? Even Qin Nan could not help but inhale deeply upon hearing this. Judging from the situation, not only could the ownerless heaven pattern seal a cultivator inside it, it could also acquire the strongest art of Tao seeking from the cultivator. Once a cultivator had practiced an art of Tao seeking, they would be able to acquire the art of Tao seeking. On top of it, it could absorb multiple cultivators at the same time. If I can absorb the core disciples of the Supreme Taoism factions with the ownerless heaven pattern, doesn't that mean I can learn the arts of Tao seeking too? Qin Nan's blood began to boil. However, he soon thought of a problem. Bai Fu was only a core disciple of the Extreme Living Gate. He had only learned the general outline of the true scriptures of the Extreme Living Tao. It was likely that the ownerless heaven pattern could only absorb the general outline of the true scriptures of Tao. If Qin Nan wanted to acquire the complete art of Tao seeking, he would have to seal the strongest core disciples of the Extreme Living Gate inside it. Even so, the ownerless heaven pattern is still outstanding. Qin Nan was startled. Most importantly, it was only the ownerless heaven pattern's current ability. Once his cultivation grew stronger, the ownerless heaven pattern would have even more terrifying abilities. No wonder the beast hide drawing is so interested in it. A thought crossed Qin Nan's mind. He murmured, "Let's see if I can release him." He communicated with the ownerless heaven pattern. At that instant, the portrait that Wan Shao had turned into a brilliant golden ray. It flew out of the pattern and landed on the ground, revealing its original appearance. "Qin Nan, just kill me if you want to. I'm still a peerless genius. Why do you have to use such a strange trick on me?" Wan Shao let out a furious roar as he landed on the ground. Just now, other than encountering an unbearable restriction, his consciousness had also turned completely blank. Furthermore, he also felt a mysterious power taking something away from his body. This kind of feeling was extremely uncomfortable. Not only can I release him, he won't know his art of Tao seeking has been taken away too. Qin Nan's eyes glittered. As such, if he were to absorb the arts of Tao seeking of the Supreme Taoism factions, they would not be aware of it. It would save him a lot of trouble. "Wan Shao, even an ant wants to live, yet you're willing to die. What I said still stands. Be my mount and I'll spare your life," Qin Nan said sternly. He had been eyeing the golden-winged giant Ping for a long time. He would not give up so easily. "Hee, you're asking me to be your mount? In your dreams." Wan Shao let out a hollow laugh. He did not hesitate. "You should know that with my current cultivation, I can easily force you to be my mount." Qin Nan said calmly, "However, I don't want to do that unless I have no other choice. Besides, think about it, I'm going to be the strongest immortal in the near future. My name will spread across the entire Nine Heavens, immortal realm. Do you think it's embarrassing to be my mount?" Wan Shao was startled. He soon burst out laughing. "The strongest immortal? Just you? You might be strong, and have achieved the minor success stage of the Tao realm, but you shouldn't underestimate the geniuses of the Nine Heavens immortal realm." He had done his research before taking part in the battle. According to what he knew, a few of the geniuses had already probed the Tao realm. Probing the Tao realm might not be comparable to the minor success stage of the Tao realm, but the difference was not that huge. "If I fail to become the strongest immortal, I'll kowtow to you and apologize. That way you won't be embarrassed." Qin Nan placed his hands behind him and glanced sideways at him. "If I succeed, you'll be my mount for 10 years. Do you dare?" Chapter 1636. Darkness descends. Wan Zhao's eyes flickered disdainfully. Qin Nan, do you really think I can't tell that you're trying to provoke me? However, he clenched his teeth and said, I accept. In his opinion, there was no way Qin Nan could become the strongest immortal. Therefore, he had agreed to let Qin Nan kneel and kowtow to him. Very well. Qin Nan nodded. His lips curled upward. It's only a matter of time before I become the strongest immortal. It's only a matter of time before you become my mount. Why don't you just be my mount and get a feel for it? Saying this, Qin Nan slapped Wan Zhao's back before he could react. Countless mystical patterns instantly extended throughout his massive demonic body. Qin Nan landed on Wan Zhao's back with a flicker. An indescribable sense of achievement rose within him. Nice. Qin Nan uttered a single word, as if he had just gone through a great battle. Qin Nan, you. Wan Zhao collected his thoughts. He felt like he was about to lose his mind. Be his mount in advance? Get a feel for it? This guy was a peerless genius who had achieved the minor success stage of the Tao realm. How could he do such a shameless thing? I won't mistreat you if you become my mount in advance. This beast statue is yours. Qin Nan took 2 of the beast statues and gave the third one to Wan Zhao. The 3 beast statues were transformed from 3 immortal beasts. Apart from a strong immortal intent and force, they also contained various kinds of beast art. Don't be angry anymore. Don't try to resist either. It's meaningless. Qin Nan said sternly. You! Wan Zhao almost vomited blood upon hearing this. A slap, a sweet date, and then a threat. Was this guy treating him like a descendant? However, thinking about it carefully, what Qin Nan said was not unreasonable. Even if he vowed to fight to the death, there was not much meaning now. Qin Nan had already imprinted the mystical prince on his body. No matter what means he used, he would be forcibly controlled by Qin Nan within a short period of time. Qin Nan, I can be your mount in advance, but you must remember one thing, you must never tell anyone else about my identity. Wan Zhao withheld his anger and said, if you fail to become the strongest immortal, you will give me 10 kowtows in front of everyone. Otherwise, I will definitely fight you to the death. Qin Nan immediately nodded. In any case, they had long been at odds with each other. Little Wan, let's not waste any more time. We need to leave now and head to the depths of the 9-dragon mystical domain. Qin Nan sat down cross-legged. Wait for me to change my form. Wan Zhao was startled. Wisps of godly glow began to emit from his enormous figure. Each of his feathers began to grow longer. The golden glow had a hint of purple. From afar it did not look like a golden-winged giant pring, but a purple-golden godly bird. And one more thing, don't call me Little Wan. Wan Zhao clenched his teeth. He extended his wings and flew out of the cave, producing strong gusts of wind. Above the lake, dragons were circling in the air. The battles in the caves had come to an end. Many cultivators had flown out of the cave. Their eyes flickered with astonishment when they saw the purple-golden godly bird. Is this the 7-headed battle dragon that you summoned? Wan Zhao felt like his face was on fire. He immediately took the initiative to ask. Before Qin Nan could respond, he sensed 7 faint murderous intent. He subconsciously raised his head and saw the 7-headed battle dragon glaring at him. Wan Zhao was also a beast too. He immediately realized that the 7-headed battle dragon was displeased because Qin Nan had chosen to land on him instead of the others. Wan Zhao's lips twisted. Not only was he forced to be their mount, he even had to suffer the wrath of a battle dragon? What the heck was that? Wan Zhao shook his head. He beat his wings and flew forward. Now that he had the 7-headed battle dragon, he no longer needed to summon the one he had summoned. Time gradually passed. 3 hours later, Qin Nan and the others arrived at the inner part of the place. Unlike the outer part and the middle part, The inner part of the place had wisps of dragon auras lingering in every corner. Even though they could not see anything, they could clearly sense 9 shocking existences at the end of the place. Roar. The 7-headed battle dragon uttered a roar. 14 images were displayed in front of Qin Nan. Only 14 extraordinary places in the inner part of the place? Qin Nan and Wan Shao frowned. Normally, the deeper they went, the more successions they would find. Qin Nan soon came to a realization. It was most likely because the rank of the battle dragon was not high enough, thus the number of extraordinary places it could find was limited. Qin Nan, I must tell you, many people have summoned a 7-clawed godly dragon, or even a 10-clawed immortal dragon. Wan Shao took hold of the opportunity to pour cold water on Qin Nan's enthusiasm. With a high-ranked dragon leading the way, they must have found a better place. If you don't go there now, you won't have the chance. It was not necessarily a good thing for him, but he was more than happy to see Qin Nan's ascension being hindered. It's fine, we'll go here. Qin Nan pointed at one of the images. The power of the white-blue flower had begun to influence the entire 9-dragon mystical realm. It was likely that some extraordinary successions would be discovered in advance, resulting in rare phenomena. Even without the battle dragon leading the way, Qin Nan was able to find the place. Whoosh! Right at this moment, a shocking sound of something breaking through the air came from extremely far ahead. A beam of bright black light rushed into the clouds. Could it be that some shocking succession has appeared? Wan Shao was astounded. He had just poured cold water on Qin Nan, and it was already here? However, in the next instant a shocking change occurred. After entering the clouds, the black light was like a shocking catastrophe, surging in all directions. Its speed had reached an unimaginable level. A few moments later, the entire 9-dragon mystical realm changed. The sky was pitch black, as if they were in a world of darkness. In addition to it, the dragon aura and the presence of the aura had completely disappeared. It was replaced by a great pressure. The 7-headed battle dragon began to roar impatiently while swinging its tail. Even Qin Nan and Wan Shao felt like a huge rock was pressing down on their hearts. Their expressions darkened. Such a shocking change was obviously an extremely bad omen. Chapter 1637. The Emperor Lights the Lantern. Chapter 1645. Evil Spirit. The Emperor lights the lanternas if to confirm their thoughts. Countless gusts of wind as cold as blades surged from the distance, causing the ground to tremble slightly. Wisps of murderous intent descended from the rift, sending chills down their spines. Qin Nan, should we? Wan Shao was about to ask. Judging from the rare phenomenon, we can't be sure if it's a conspiracy. Besides, if it's a conspiracy, why didn't it show up until now? Qin Nan said without hesitation, let's keep going and see what's going on. Wan Shao was quite surprised. If he was in Qin Nan's shoes, he would not take such a risk. He would withdraw from the place and wait patiently. The man, the Ping, and the 7 dragons continued forward. Some time later, the darkness gradually grew stronger. Qin Nan was able to see within 100 li in the darkness with his eye technique, but he could only see less than 10 li now. Even his divine sense was beginning to be affected to a certain extent. Bang bang bang! On top of that, as they ventured deeper into the place, the number of explosions increased. The cries of the dragons and the cries of agony of the cultivators gradually became clearer too. It was obvious that a great danger had appeared, resulting in the deaths of many cultivators. Whoosh! At that instant, a rapid whooshing sound came from the rift as a copper arrow over 100 zhang long with a blinding glow flew at Qin Nan and his crew. Destruction Battle Fist. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. He threw a punch forward and shattered the arrow into pieces. He did not stop there. His right arm transformed into the heaven-shattering saber and slashed at the rift 3 li ahead. Saber intense surged across the place. Roar! 3 ancient demon bulls with 3 horns on their heads that were hiding in the rift uttered a furious roar and kicked their hooves. It was not the end of it. The rift within 100 li from where Qin Nan and his crew were suddenly twisted. One after another, the phantoms of enormous beasts appeared one after another, raising their heads to the sky and roaring. Qin Nan, you can't go any further. This level of killing intent is enough to kill a 9th-layer heavenly god. If you continue. Wan Zhao's body tensed as he wore a solemn expression. This won't do. Let's walk another 1,000 li and see what happens. Qin Nan interrupted with a wave of his hand. His figure flickered as he slashed out countless saber shadows. If one could not enter the depths of the 9-dragon mystical realm, they would not be able to obtain the peerless inheritance. They would only be able to obtain some minor inheritances in the central region. Even though he could still enter the 3rd immortal ancient place, he wanted to increase his chances of ascending as an immortal before that. Still going forward? This guy is too stubborn. Wan Zhao was a little speechless. At the same time, he realized that Qin Nan was too rude. He had interrupted him twice in a row. Meanwhile, countless murderous intents were forming in the depths of the spacious area. One after another, the cultivators were terrified when they heard the cries of agony. They did not dare to stay any longer and quickly left the place, resulting in chaos. Qin Nan and the others were still pushing forward. Roar! At that instant, a shocking change took place once again. 2 terrifying cries of dragons came from the end of the pitch-black land, spreading to every corner of the cultivators. What's going on? One after another, the cultivators raised their heads and glanced at Qin Nan in confusion. Qin Nan and Wan Zhao frowned too. The fact that the cries of the dragons could be heard from such a great distance indicated that the 2 dragons were nothing ordinary. Roar! 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 Following it, over 20 cries of the dragons exploded in the distance. Even though they were not as loud as the 2 cries, they clearly entered the ears of the crowd. Following it, the crowd witnessed a magnificent sight. More than 20 enormous dragons over 4,000 zhang long, each with 7 claws and scales emitting a shocking glow rose from the darkness and soared into the sky. On the ferocious dragon heads stood a cultivator engulfed in golden flames, like peerless dragons. Are they the cultivators that summoned the 7-clawed godly dragons? Wan Zhao was astounded. Interesting. The golden flames in Qin Nan's eyes flickered. Both the 7-clawed godly dragons and the cultivators have an outstanding force in their bodies. It's obvious that they have received some kind of enhancement. As soon as he finished the sentence, an unexpected change took place. 2 brilliant immortal rays burst out from the 7-clawed godly dragons. 2 enormous dragons over 10,000 zhang long with immortal intents soared into the sky. A cultivator was standing on the dragon heads too. However, the 2 cultivators were wearing white robes with tens of thousands of golden flames floating behind them, forming an ancient formation that emitted an indescribable pressure. Even though there were more than 27-clawed godly dragons, they were still significantly weaker compared to the 2 10-clawed immortal dragons. They are the peerless geniuses of the supreme Taoism factions. From what I know, only they have summoned the 10-clawed immortal dragons. Wan Zhao immediately said, "Greetings, dragon immortals, in the name of the ancient dragon tribe, we have summoned the figures of our seniors. May we resolve the calamity. May we see the light again." In the distance, the 2 peerless geniuses performed a hand seal. For some reason, their voices were extremely loud, echoing in every corner like claps of thunder. In the next moment, the 2 of them suddenly flew out from the dragon's head. Like 2 peerless kings, they stepped into the end of the darkness. The ancient formation of golden flames behind them morphed into 2 enormous golden flame dragons, which roared and flew into the depths of the abyss. Following it, 2 enormous dragon lanterns over 10,000 zhang tall with countless drawings of the 10-clawed immortal dragons appeared. They emitted millions of rays of light that penetrated the darkness. Qin Nan raised his brows. The peerless geniuses were riding the dragons to light up the lanterns? That was not the end of it. The peak heaven gods riding the seven-clawed godly dragons sprang into the sky and fired the golden flames they were engulfed in. 7 enormous dragon lanterns appeared once again. Countless rays of light burst out from the lanterns and penetrated the darkness in the sky like an army of immortal swords. The whole place regained its clarity. The murderous intents that were descending upon the place vanished into thin air as if they were destroyed by a mysterious force. Not only that, countless streams of dragon chi gushed out from the 9 dragon lanterns like a heavenly river, landing on the land. Chapter 1638. The capital of thousands of monsters. How did this happen? Fellow cultivators, let's go and take a look. The emperors have lit up the lamps, the heavens and earth are changing rapidly. There must be a peerless succession ahead. On the vast land, one cultivator after another came back to their senses. Without any hesitation, they all transmitted their divine will and ordered the dragons under their command to fly forward at full speed. It was a great contrast to the chaotic scene where the cultivators were fleeing for their lives with cries of agony. After all, every cultivator could tell that the overwhelming murderous intent was only a facade of the activation of the peerless succession. A peerless succession? Was the murderous intent just then all fake? Wan Shao stared with his mouth open. From what he knew, the 9-dragon mystical realm had existed for many years, yet it was extremely rare to see a peerless succession like this. Besides, did that mean Qin Nan was right to insist on it? The murderous intent just then wasn't fake. It was indeed a deadly trap. But later on, someone changed everything. Qin Nan squinted. The person must be extraordinary to be able to come this far. According to his speculation, a group of genius cultivators must have gone deep into the place and discovered something, which triggered the deadly trap. However, due to the influence of the white-blue flower, the unparalleled inheritance of this murderous situation had changed. Someone had noticed the change and made their move to reverse the situation. It was highly possible. Xiao Wan, don't just stand there, let's go. Qin Nan withdrew his thoughts and patted Wan Shao on the head. Wan Shao immediately collected his thoughts. He immediately dashed into the distance at his fastest speed when he recalled the peerless succession ahead of him. Qin Nan, I'm warning you, if you dare call me Xiao Wan again, I won't forgive you. A moment later, Wan Zhao's furious voice echoed in the rift. Time gradually passed. After the period it took an incense stick to burn, a magnificent sight took place in front of Qin Nan and the others. Floating in the air 10,000 zhang above the ground were palaces over 100,000 zhang tall and a few 100,000 zhang wide. They were bathed in godly glows and intertwined with immortal runes. On each of the palaces, there was a picture of an ancient greater demon. It was extremely lifelike, especially the pair of demonic eyes that seemed to be coldly watching everything in the world. This was not the most eye-catching thing. Behind the palaces floated 8 enormous illusionary dragons with flickering immortal glows. They were like ancient godly mountains surrounding one another, forming an ancient formation. At the center of the formation, there was an even larger dragon made of immortal light. Its 4 claws were standing on an auspicious cloud that looked like a throne. It was looking down at everything with its dragon eyes. The birth of the 9-dragon mystical realm, whether it was the first or the second legend, had something to do with the 9 peerless dragon fairies. Now, 9 giant dragons of immortal will had appeared behind the thousands of demons. Even if they were not transformed from 9 peerless dragon immortals, there was still a great connection between them. You dare to stop me? Die. Fellow Taoist, follow me into the 8th palace. Thousands of enormous dragons had already gathered in front of the palace. They were all battle dragons or above. The cultivators riding the dragons immediately charged into the palace after seeing the sight before them. A huge battle even broke out because they were trying to block Qin Nan's path. However, it was only the beginning. The appearance of the peerless succession was simply too shocking. Many cultivators were still making their way to the place from the distance. Don't tell me the succession of the 9 peerless dragon immortals is going to show up this time? Wan Shao subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Even if it was him, he would be very tempted when faced with such an inheritance. It's very unlikely, but it's already quite impressive, Qin Nan said while activating the golden eyes of the divine god of battle to scan the magnificent palaces. He said, "The 2 peerless geniuses riding the 10-clawed immortal dragons and the geniuses riding the 7-clawed godly dragons aren't here. They should be behind the illusionary dragons. Let's head over." The 7-headed battle dragon immediately understood Qin Nan's intention and flew into the sky. Why is there a giant pring here? Many cultivators who were entering the palace were shocked when they saw Wan Shao. Some even activated their eye techniques to take a closer look. What giant pung? I'm the purple golden godly eagle. Wan Shao panicked. He glared at one of the cultivators and said, "What are you looking at? I'm going to kill you right now." He swung his golden claws at Wan Shao. Even though he was usually imperious, he had never gone this far. He was only doing it to prevent the others from guessing his identity. A mere godly eagle dares to act so disdainfully. The peak heaven god was infuriated. He executed 3 immortal arts at the same time aiming at Wan Shao. "You can't touch my mount." A cold and indifferent voice sounded. Qin Nan's blood-red hair drifted despite the absence of wind. A dark red glow formed by a strong murderous intent burst out from his body and froze the rift nearby. You, the cultivator who was about to attack, and many others were startled. Their eyes flickered with fear. Who exactly was this man, to be able to kill so many peerless geniuses? "Forget it, I'm not going to waste my time on you," Wan Shao said indifferently. He was only trying to divert the attention of the crowd. He would not really kill the cultivators for no reason. Meanwhile, one cultivator after another had jumped off the giant dragons and entered the palaces. A few of the palaces began to emit a mystical glow. It was obvious that the palaces contained extraordinary successions too. However, Qin Nan and his crew only took a quick glance at the palaces. They continued to fly into the sky instead of making their move. Qin Nan suddenly frowned. The 7-headed battle dragon ahead of him began to tremble vigorously. It was unwilling to move forward even when Qin Nan transmitted his voice to it. "Qin Nan, these palaces and the illusionary figures of the 9 dragons are like a pagoda. If the rank of the dragons isn't high enough, they won't be able to fly up to it. Cultivators can't fly up there either. They have to rely on the giant dragons." Wan Shao sensed his surroundings and said after checking his surroundings. Many cultivators riding the 7-clawed battle dragon before them were unable to move any further after reaching the palaces. They were unable to enter the illusionary figures of the 9 dragons. Which means we need a 7-clawed godly dragon to reach the illusionary figures of the 9 dragons. Qin Nan frowned. Where were the 7-clawed godly dragons now? "Forget it, let's go deeper first." Chapter 1639. Time Immemorial Sacred Leopard. Chapter 1647. Invincible. Time immemorial sacred leopard. Above the battle dragon were the 7-clawed battle dragon, the 7-clawed godly dragon, and the 10-clawed immortal dragon. In the palaces of beasts, the battle dragons could only reach the middle of the palaces. They could not go any further. They had to ride a 7-clawed battle dragon to reach the deeper parts of the palaces. The latter too could reach the illusionary figures of the 9 dragons. The cultivators with 7-clawed godly dragons and 10-clawed immortal dragons had most likely entered the illusionary figures of the 9 dragons. It was basically impossible for Qin Nan to find them. The only thing he could do now was to go deeper into the palaces. Do as you see fit. I'll bring you to the illusionary figures of the 9 dragons, if you can find them. Qin Nan transmitted his thought to Wan Shao. He turned into a shocking saber glow and flew onto a 7-clawed battle dragon. Cultivator, may I borrow your battle dragon? Qin Nan flicked his finger and unleashed wisps of destruction battle will. How dare you target my battle dragon? The cultivator, sitting on the 7-clawed battle dragon and wearing a ghostly robe, let out an angry roar. His withered hands immediately reached out from under the robe. Even though Qin Nan was emitting a terrifying crimson-red glow, what Qin Nan was doing was clearly going against the cultivator's interests. As such, the cultivator made his move without any hesitation. Qin Nan arrived behind the cultivator with a flicker. He gathered the destruction battle will into a giant fist and threw it forward. Following a huge blast, the cultivator groaned and was knocked flying. He slammed heavily into the rift in the distance. Cultivator, I'm sorry, I'll return the 7-clawed battle dragon to you. Qin Nan brought his fists together. The 7-clawed battle dragon was infuriated. It was about to make its move when it shuddered as it sensed something. It quickly returned to the deeper parts of the palaces. Qin Nan came down from the dragon's back. He frowned when he saw the illusionary figures of the 9 dragons. He was at the center of the palaces, thus he did not realize there was an invisible barrier around the place. On top of it, he could sense a dangerous aura from the barrier. It clearly contained some kind of danger that his eye technique could not peek through. As for the 7-clawed battle dragon that Qin Nan was riding on, it let out a cry and returned to its owner. Its eyes kept glancing at Qin Nan with a hint of reluctance. Is that possible? Wan Shao and the cultivators of the central continent were astounded. They did not expect the rules to have such a huge loophole. There was no need to rob them. As long as they borrowed a dragon, they would be able to enter the depth. Wan Shao and the rest of the cultivators soon collected their thoughts. They immediately glanced at the remaining 7 7-clawed battle dragons, causing the cultivators on the dragon heads to shudder. Qin Nan quickly made up his mind and glanced around. There were not many palaces in the depths, only 37. There were only 37 cultivators in the inner part of the palace. There were more than 70 of them. Not long after, Qin Nan fixed his gaze on a magnificent palace made of bronze. The beast pattern on the palace was a rare beast from the ancient era. It was called the time immemorial sacred leopard. Compared to some of the other demonic beasts, the aura emitted by this strange beast was even more terrifying and ferocious. Qin Nan went into the palace with a kick. The walls of the palace were engraved with images of the time immemorial sacred leopard fighting against other cultivators and beasts. Several rare phenomena were taking place inside the palace. Some of the rare phenomena were teleportation formations. If a cultivator accidentally entered them, they would be teleported to a dangerous place. As for the front of the hall, it was filled with all kinds of murderous traps. There were even 3 heaven gods who were trapped in the trap. Cultivator, why don't we work together? If we manage to find the succession, you can take 7. One of the peak heaven god realm cultivators was overjoyed when he saw Qin Nan. He was not an idiot. Judging from Qin Nan's aura and the crimson-red glow, he could easily tell that Qin Nan was an extraordinary peerless genius. If someone like him was willing to help them, they would be able to resolve the danger. Whoosh! However, before he could finish, Qin Nan's figure turned into a shocking saber glow and dove into the murderous aura. He's going in alone? The 3 peak heaven god realm cultivators were stunned. They were well aware of how deadly the traps were. Even a peerless genius would be asking for trouble if they were to charge into the traps alone. But in the next moment they saw an incomparably shocking scene. Qin Nan's figure weaved through the deadly traps as if there was no one around. Each of his steps perfectly dodged the trap. A few moments later, they could no longer see Qin Nan. Qin Nan had arrived deep inside the palace. What's this? Qin Nan's eyes glittered. A very sinister scene appeared in front of him. Almost 3,000 heads of cultivators of different sizes were suspended in the air by golden strings. Each head was still dripping with blood as it slammed on the ground. A strong murderous intent was weaving back and forth in the place like phantoms. Crap, it's a killing formation! Qin Nan was startled. He immediately backed away without hesitation. However, he was still a step too late. The eyes on the heads suddenly emitted a shocking crimson glow as they fixed their gazes on Qin Nan. The walls and the surroundings vanished instantly. They were replaced by a swamp that had turned into hell. Several ferocious demons crawled out from the swamp. Over 10,000 murderous intents were locked onto Qin Nan. Each demon was no ordinary demon. They were comparable to the heaven god realm. Sky-desolating saber art. Qin Nan stopped backing away upon seeing this. He went forward and slashed forward with the heaven-shattering saber. Following a series of explosions, the demons were shattered into pieces. However, in the next moment, these ghostly beings began to reform their bodies. Not only were their cultivations stronger than before, they were able to execute various immortal arts too. Such a vicious killing formation, not only did it sacrifice the lives of almost 3,000 cultivators, it even trapped their souls inside the demons. Chapter 1640. Strange bronze characters. A few hours later, Qin Nan's figure appeared in the hall. After such a long time, even though the crimson-red glow on his figure did not expand, his murderous aura was stronger than before. I should recover my god force first. Qin Nan sat with his legs crossed and calmed his aura. He opened his eyes after recovering his strength and proceeded deeper into the hall. The place was so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping to the ground could be heard. The walls on both sides still had many ancient paintings, but there was something strange about them. Not only was there no sign of the time immemorial sacred leopard, there was no sign of the dragons either. As he ventured deeper, he began to see enormous statues ahead. These statues were of various ancient demonic beasts. There were even quite a few of them from the dragon clan. The most eye-catching statues were the 3 10-clawed immortal dragons. If an ordinary person were to see this scene, they would only think that the sculptures were so lifelike, and that it was a work of art. However, Qin Nan could sense an aura from each of the statues that had yet to be erased, especially the 3 statues of the 10-clawed immortal dragons. The aura was even stronger. In other words, these statues were all refined from living demonic beasts. This time immemorial sacred leopard was a demon when it was alive. Qin Nan murmured. He could understand if the time immemorial sacred leopard was only cruel to humans, but it was only natural for it to be so cruel to the beasts too. Qin Nan continued forward. He came to a stop some time later. He saw a demon formation with the pattern of the 9 palaces in front of him. Behind the formation stood 3 stone pillars. At the top of the stone pillars was a piece of crystal-clear jade. Inside the jade were a 6-colored flower, a piece of pitch-black tree root, and a piece of green scale. This is... Qin Nan's heart shuddered. He saw an ancient jade coffin over 30 zhang long at the end of the hall. He could faintly see some bones inside it. On both sides of the coffin, there was a jade slip and a stone slab that was about 20 feet long. He had no idea what was inside the scroll, but the stone tablet had a shocking immortal intent. Even the 3 demonic beast statues he had obtained before paled in comparison. I didn't expect the primordial chaos sacred leopard to leave behind so many treasures when it was alive. Qin Nan's eyes flashed, and his figure instantly stepped into the array. At that instant, the pattern of the 9 palaces emitted a brilliant glow, as countless beastly auras were emitted, which transformed into murderous beasts. Forbidden taboo body! Qin Nan bellowed, and his aura surged to its peak. This 9 palaces demonic Tao formation was several times stronger than the formations he had encountered before. Even he had to deal with it properly. Time passed. A day later, there was a loud bang, and the huge formation was completely shattered. Qin Nan was not in a rush to make his move. He first approached the pillar and observed it for a while, before placing the 3 jades into his bag. His gaze immediately landed on the stone slab. The ancient jade coffin might contain the corpse of the primordial chaos sacred leopard. If he took it with brute force, not only would it be dangerous, it would not bring him any benefits either. As for the scroll, it must contain a martial art. Only the stone slab would be useful to him. Qin Nan took a deep breath and slowly approached the stone slab. When he arrived beside the stone slab, nothing unusual happened. He did not notice anything out of place either. However, he did not dare to lower his guard. He summoned the destruction hand and grabbed at it. He successfully secured the stone slab. Nothing seemed out of place in the hall. Qin Nan was slightly relieved. He suddenly discovered a row of twisted words under the stone slab. Kill, kill, kill dragons? Qin Nan was stunned as he read the words one by one. Kill dragons? Could it be that the primordial chaos sacred leopard wanted to kill dragons? Strange, the primordial chaos sacred leopard should be one of the beasts that followed the 9 dragon immortals in the 9 dragon mystical realm. Could it be? A thought crossed Qin Nan's mind. However, he did not spend too much time thinking about it. He soon fixed his gaze on the scroll. If there was no danger in taking the stone slab, it would not hurt to take the scroll too. However, when he summoned the giant hand of destruction again, his expression changed greatly, and all the hairs on his body stood on end. He sensed a terrifying murderous aura. If his hand grabbed at the stone slab, he did not doubt that the ancient drawings, statues, and every rock in the hall would turn into a tremendous murderous aura. Even with his cultivation, he would struggle to resist it. It's not easy to claim the treasure here. Luckily, I reacted in time. Qin Nan withdrew his hand. He let out a relieved sigh when he sensed the murderous aura dissipating. However, his mind suddenly flickered with a thought. A living dragon statue, and the words below the stone slab, as well as the formless killing aura from earlier. Did this mean that? It's possible. It's worth a try. The golden flames in Qin Nan's eyes flickered. He immediately withdrew from the hall without hesitation. Qin Nan was not in a rush to make his move. He raised his head as he sensed something. He saw more than 4,000 battle dragons or dragons above the level of the battle dragon tribe gathered above the palaces. It was a magnificent sight. In addition to it, most of the palaces were emitting glows. Some had shocking immortal intents, while others were filled with murderous auras. Joyful cries and cries of agony could be heard everywhere. That being said, the most eye-catching ones were the 5 palaces at the center. 5 cultivators were soaring into the sky with rare phenomena around them. Wisps of immortal intents surged inside their bodies. Huge stormy clouds were gathering above them too. It was obvious that they had found a fortunate encounter and were ascending as immortals. Qin Nan had shown up at the right time. 2 of the cultivators had just survived the last tribulation. Their bodies underwent tremendous changes. Wisps of human immortal auras were unleashed. Every peak heaven god realm cultivator was minuscule compared to them. Even Qin Nan's presence dimmed slightly. Ha ha ha, fellow cultivators, I'll be leaving first. The 2 cultivators burst out laughing and vanished into thin air. Those who ascended in the immortal ancient place would be forcibly teleported out. Ascending as an immortal. The cultivators were astounded. Their eyes were filled with envy. Their eyes were filled with determination and passion as they executed a series of immortal arts. The palaces of beasts were a great fortunate encounter. If they could grab hold of the opportunity, they too would ascend as an immortal. It's my first time seeing someone ascending as an immortal. Such a pity, it would be even grander if it were a peerless genius. Chapter 1641. The Gap in the Barrier. Wan Shao shuddered and immediately went up to Qin Nan. His eyes flickered. You found a way to enter the illusionary figure of the 9 dragons? He was a peerless genius, just like Qin Nan. Even though the successions in the palaces were not bad, they were not enough for him to ascend as an immortal. Ask the cultivators in these 2 palaces to come out. Qin Nan pointed at the 2 palaces beside the time immemorial sacred leopard palace. He straightened his face and performed a series of hand seals. Got it. Wan Shao did not waste any time. He turned into a purple ray and entered the palaces. A while later, several cultivators flew out from the palaces with a hint of anger in their eyes. Even though Wan Shao was a peerless genius, and they were no match against him, they were still displeased when they were forced to leave while competing for the successions. Bang! At that instant, a shocking aura soared into the sky. A crimson-golden armor appeared on Qin Nan's body. Together with the crimson-red murderous aura, he looked like a peerless god of slaughter, sending chills down the spines of the crowd. Even the 3 cultivators who were on the verge of achieving the human immortal realm further away failed to suppress him with their immortal auras. Such a powerful aura! Which peerless genius is that? The god of misfortune, Qin Nan. Why would he be here? Many cultivators in the palaces and outside were immediately attracted by the sight. Their eyes were filled with respect, confusion, etc. What do we do now? Wan Shao flew up to Qin Nan and asked. The cultivators who were initially furious when they were chased out immediately lost their anger upon seeing this. They did not dare to show their displeasure when 2 peerless geniuses were teaming up. Back away, we might not be able to open the entrance, and it might even bring us a great danger. Qin Nan transmitted his voice. His eyes sharpened as the heaven-shattering saber in his hand buzzed vigorously and unleashed its saber intent. What? We might not be able to open the entrance? Qin Nan, didn't you just tell me you were going to enter the illusionary figure of the 9 dragons? Wan Shao was stunned. He glared at Qin Nan. This guy was simply too much of a bastard. How could he lie to him about such a thing? However, as usual, Qin Nan did not give him the chance to finish his sentence. He slapped his back and knocked him into the distance, before his figure sprang into the sky. An astonishing aura pressed down on the 3 great halls. Is he going to? The cultivators in the palaces of the beasts were stunned. Break! Following a roar, they saw Qin Nan's figure emitting a blinding glow as he fired a saber intent at each of the 3 palaces. Every saber chi was like the strike of a saber immortal, as bright as the rainbow. Boom! An earth-shattering boom resounded above the palace of all monsters. The time immemorial sacred leopard palace and 2 other palaces were torn apart by the terrifying saber intent. The formations and traps inside the palaces were destroyed with brute force. He actually attacked the 3 demon palaces? The cultivators in the palaces and Wan Shao were stunned. They now knew that not only did each of the palaces contain extraordinary successions, they also contained terrifying traps deep inside the palaces. If anyone provoked the traps, even a human immortal would not stand a chance against them, let alone a peerless genius. Roar! 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 As Wan Shao thought, 3 thunderous roars of beasts exploded between the heavens and earth. Deep inside the 3 palaces, a giant figure of a beast, an icy claw, and a pair of pitch-black eyes could be seen, emitting terrifying auras. The cultivators were startled. Their hearts turned cold as they instinctively executed immortal arts to flee for their lives. Death upon the area! Qin Nan did not stop there. He slashed at the air. At that instant, the saber intents collided with the invisible barrier. Whoosh! Wisps of immortal intent appeared out of nowhere and soared into the sky like surging waves. The icy aura it emitted even covered the palaces with a layer of frost. Compared to the murderous traps in the 3 palaces, The aura of this murderous trap was even stronger. He even provoked the barrier? The cultivators in the palaces were dumbfounded. The peerless genius was simply asking for his death. However, as soon as the thought crossed their minds, a shocking sight took place. The traps that appeared from the palaces of the three heavens' supremacy no longer targeted Qin Nan after sensing the murderous intent of the barrier. It was as if they had shocking intelligence. They stared at the boundless immortal will and burst out in anger. All kinds of power madly attacked the immortal will. Bang, bang, bang! The entire heaven and earth fell into a thunderous roar. Countless streams of astral energy shot out like swords, covering a radius of 10,000 miles. Many cultivators felt their cheeks hurt. The impact was comparable to a battle between two first-layer Earth immortals. It worked! Qin Nan was overjoyed. The great burden in his heart was lifted. He had a bold speculation after witnessing everything that happened in the time immemorial Sacred Leopard's stone palace. The nine-headed dragon immortal must have forced them to build the palaces. Or rather, the experts of the dragon tribe had asked them to build the palaces. If his speculation was right, the palaces and the barrier would surely clash with one another after he triggered the traps. That being said, even if his speculation was wrong, the palaces were very close to the barrier. It was very likely that the palaces would clash with one another after the traps were triggered. As such, he decided to take the risk based on the two possibilities. There's a gap. Qin Nan was startled. The collision of the four killing intents caused a crack that was more than 10 feet long to appear on the invisible barrier. Wan Xiao, don't just stand there. Execute a powerful escape art and go through the gap. Qin Nan groaned and executed the skystride blow. Wan Xiao, who was wearing a blank expression, immediately collected his thoughts. He hesitated for a moment when he saw the collision between the four traps. Even though the barrier had a gap, it would still be severely injured if he was not careful enough. I don't care, let's do it. Wan Xiao clenched his teeth. He turned into a purple ray and disappeared. He's using the traps of the palaces to leave a gap on the barrier? The cultivators on the palaces collected their thoughts too. Their faces were filled with disbelief. They initially thought the peerless genius was trying to get himself killed. Here's our chance. They soon collected their thoughts too. They were about to make their way into the barrier. Roar! At that instant, a dragon cry echoed across the heavens and earth. Among the 9 illusionary dragons, one of them seemed to have awakened from its slumber. It reached out its giant claw and slapped the barrier. Chapter 1642. Encountering Z, who again a few moments later, they arrived at a small world in the illusionary figure of the 9 dragons. Did we really come in? Wan Xiao appeared. He was still in disbelief when he saw the new scenery before him. We did come in, but we haven't really gone inside yet. Qin Nan calmed his aura and said calmly. In his line of sight, there was a vast and boundless plain. At the end of the plain, there were patches of forest and undulating mountains. There was nothing out of the ordinary. However, he sharply sensed that there was no sign of life in the place. It was just an illusion, like an illusion. You're right. Wan Xiao noticed something strange too. He said, but there must be an entrance here. Let's take a closer look. His eyes immediately turned purple-golden. Qin Nan nodded. He activated the golden eyes of the divine god of battle and unleashed his divine sense. He proceeded forward, trying to find some clues. Half the period it took an incense to burn later, the two came to a stop. They had arrived beside a river. Even though they could not see anything, and the surface of the river was normal, they could sense a faint aura. The aura belonged to a cultivator. As expected of the god of misfortune, Qin Nan, I'm impressed. A pleasant voice appeared beside them. Following this, a woman wearing a long purple dress with an alluring aura appeared on the surface of the river. Her eyes stared straight into Qin Nan's eyes with a watery glow. Zi-Hu. Qin Nan and Wan Shao were startled. The woman was none other than Zi-Hu, one of the peerless geniuses in the Shangxingtian's small immortal realm. Qin Nan had once fought her at the Lu Wang battleground. So friend Qin Nan still remembers me. Zi-Hu wore a charming smile. She glanced at the purple-golden godly bird that Wan Shao had transformed into. That being said, I'm quite curious, why do you know me too? Ugh, well. Wan Shao panicked. He did not know what to say. Cultivator Zi-Hu, why are you here? Logically speaking, you should be in the same place as those geniuses. Qin Nan changed the topic. To be honest, this little girl escaped here. Zi-Hu let out a soft sigh and extended her hand. Her originally fair palm had turned pitch black, and a deathly aura was spreading out from it. I won't say much about this little girl. Could it be that friend Qin Nan forced his way in? Qin Nan nodded and admitted without hiding anything. Zi-Hu's beautiful eyes immediately revealed a trace of splendor. She was one of the geniuses who rode the seven-clawed godly dragon into the sky to light up the lanterns. She clearly knew how difficult it was to force their way in. Of course, she was even more aware of what it meant to do this. Friend Qin Nan, and fellow Taoist divine bird, I won't say anything else. I'm afraid you'll feel annoyed. Zi-Hu's voice rang like a bell. I have a business here. I wonder if the two of you would be interested. Qin Nan said with a calm smile, Cultivator Zi-Hu, there's no need to be so courteous. Just tell me. He and Wan Shao had just arrived. They were clueless about the place. Perhaps Zi-Hu could help them solve the mystery. I believe you two already know that this place is only an illusion. Zi-Hu was still bewitching. Her eyes were seductive. It's extremely difficult to enter the real place from this illusion. Even you would need to spend a lot of time. I can bring you two inside. Wan Shao was confused when he heard this. What do you want? Zi-Hu smiled. I don't ask for much. I just hope that friend Qin Nan can bring me to the hidden treasure of the Dragon Immortals. Qin Nan was startled. The hidden treasure of the Dragon Immortals? Are you referring to the succession left by the 9 Dragon Immortals? Wan Shao was startled. He could not help but ask, is the succession of the Dragon Immortals really in the 9 Dragon mystical realm? The succession left by the 9 Dragon Immortals was a peerless succession. The benefits it would bring to those who obtained it were unimaginable. It is indeed the succession left by the 9 Dragon Immortals, but they aren't in the 9 Dragon mystical realm. They are in the outside world. Zi-Hu tucked her hair behind her ear and said, I'll have to explain it from the moment the lanterns were lit. Qin Nan and Wan Shao soon came to a realization after hearing the pleasant voice. Zi-Hu, the other geniuses riding the 7-clawed godly dragons, and the 2 geniuses riding the 10-clawed immortal dragons had arrived deep inside the 9 Dragon mystical realm and discovered an ancient ruin. They had accidentally triggered a deadly trap, which affected the entire 9 Dragon mystical realm. However, the sudden change of the ancient ruin gave them a chance of survival. They then lit up the lanterns. After the lanterns were lit up, the ancient ruin turned into its current appearance. Those who had lit up the lanterns were given the right to exist in the world of the 9 illusionary dragons and compete for the 9 kinds of dragons. These 9 dragon seeds were all extraordinary, and contained shocking fortunes within them. The Dragon Immortal seed in particular was even more fascinating. Apart from the shocking fortunate encounters, it also had a great chance of finding the legendary treasure of the Dragon Immortals. However, not everyone was allowed to compete for the Dragon Immortal seed. Only the 2 geniuses riding the 10-clawed immortal dragons had the right to compete for it. Zi-Hu was eyeing the Dragon Immortal seed. She had forcibly broken the rules and ended up suffering serious injuries. She had no choice but to leave the place to recover her cultivation. You mentioned that the cultivators who forced their way into the world can disregard the rules and compete for the Dragon Immortal seed? Qin Nan asked. I can swear an immortal demon oath that I'm not lying to you. Zihu said with a smile, "Friend Qin Nan, what do you think of the deal?" Qin Nan nodded in agreement after a slight ponder. "However, I can't guarantee that I'll be able to secure the Dragon Immortal Seed." Qin Nan added, "If they manage to secure the seed, it would not hurt to bring Zihu along. After all, they still needed Zihu's help to enter the real world. Besides, Zihu had also told them the secrets of the place. In my opinion, friend Qin Nan will surely secure the Dragon Immortal Seed." Zihu performed a hand seal to suppress the death intent in her palm and said, "Cultivators, the battle has already begun. Let's not waste any more time. Let's head over." Chapter 1643. The Battle of the Dragon Seeds. I have a feeling that this Zihu isn't as simple as she seems. She must be up to something. We should be on alert. Wan Shao suddenly lowered his voice and transmitted his voice to Qin Nan. Qin Nan nodded. His lips curled upward. It seemed like this Wan Shao had yet to realize that he had gotten used to being Qin Nan's mount. He even used the word "we" when he was thinking. "We can enter from here." After flying for a few hundred breaths, Zihu came to a stop. She flicked her finger and shattered an ancient tree into pieces. A giant black hole immediately appeared. Qin Nan and Wan Shao went into the black hole without hesitation. "Is this?" When they walked out of the black hole and arrived at the real world, their eyes flickered with astonishment when they saw the scenery before them. Their hearts were filled with astonishment too. Inside the small world, there was a shocking amount of qi, which was mixed with a hint of immortal intent. Just by absorbing this spiritual qi, it would bring great benefits to the body. In front of them was an ancient battlefield with countless corpses. Among them, the enormous dragon corpses were the most eye-catching ones. Most importantly, in the distance of the primeval battlefield, there were numerous shocking spiritual lights, or perhaps immortal lights, that charged into the clouds, and countless rare phenomena appeared. Qin Nan could see a towering ancient tree with fiery leaves, a statue covered in immortal runes, and an ancient lake flowing with an immortal glow. These things were all astonishingly valuable treasures. I forgot to mention, this small world is a land of treasure. You can find all kinds of rare treasures and successions everywhere. Zihu said while flying forward. However, the extraordinary successions won't be here. The greatest successions are the dragon seed. Qin Nan and Wan Shao collected their thoughts and followed behind Zihu. Even though they had learned that there was no extraordinary succession, their gazes were still fixed on the rare artifacts and the blessed and heavenly lands. It was extremely rare to see such a place full of treasures. Qin Nan sensed something and looked up. At the end of the battlefield, an ancient and majestic dojo appeared. Wisps of immortal glow were emitted on the dojo. Faintly, one could hear explosions taking place. It was obvious that a great battle was taking place. However, this was not the main point. Behind the dojo was a huge mountain over 19,000 zhang tall. An enormous dragon with crimson-red scales and 10 claws was crawling on the top of the mountain with a magnificent immortal aura. The dragon's life force had already been extinguished, but Qin Nan could still feel the terrifying dragon's might even from such a long distance away. What kind of dragon is this? Wan Zhao's expression shifted slightly. As a golden-winged great pring, his bloodline was much stronger than the 10-clawed immortal dragons. However, the 10-clawed immortal dragon's dragon might was too terrifying. This is the corpse of an earth immortal dragon. Although it's already dead, its body is perfectly preserved. There's no damage at all. Zihu said, however, in order to obtain this earth immortal dragon's corpse, we must first obtain the dragon seed. If we try to take it by force, we will be eliminated by the forbidding aura here. The doubts in Qin Nan's heart dissipated upon hearing this. Only the two peerless geniuses riding the 10-clawed immortal dragons were qualified to compete for the dragon immortal seed. The other cultivators were still competing for the dragon seed under the circumstances. Apart from the fortunate encounters that the dragon seed would bring, they were also aiming for the Earth Immortal Dragon's corpse. A perfectly preserved Earth Immortal Dragon's corpse, including the dragon scales, dragon blood, dragon heart, etc., would have shocking benefits and power. Wu Huixing has taken the dragon immortal seeds? Zi Hu's expression changed slightly all of a sudden. He has taken them? Qin Nan and Wan Xiao were startled. They glanced at the dojo. Apart from more than 20 cultivators, there were a few hundred living beings taking part in the battle too, executing all kinds of immortal art. In the chaotic battle, there were 8 jades around the size of a palm covered in dragon runes. Their auras were as deep as the ocean. The jades were the dragon seeds. However, the 8 dragon seeds were exactly the same. None of them were the dragon immortal seeds that Zi Hu mentioned. What a surprise! Even Liang Qi couldn't hold Wu Huixing off for more than 1,000 breaths. Zi Hu let out a sigh. Who are Wu Huixing and Liang Qi? Wan Xiao could not help but ask. That guy is Liang Qi, a core disciple of the 10 Desires sect, one of the 13 Supreme Taoism factions. He's one of the 2 peerless geniuses riding the 10-clawed immortal dragons. Zi Hu reached out her hand and pointed. Qin Nan and Wan Xiao followed her finger and immediately saw a young man in a blue robe with short hair. The young man was covered in blood. He was severely injured, yet his eyes were still expressionless like a desert. The immortal arts he was executing were extremely powerful too. As for Wu Huixing, he's the strongest core disciple of the Tao Execution Gate. Even though he has only mastered the 4 extremities, he has defeated a few peerless geniuses who had probed the Tao realm. Zi Hu's eyes flickered with a murderous intent as she said, even Ding Tianqi that we know of is no match against him. Wan Zhao's heart shuddered upon hearing this. The man was able to defeat Ding Tianqi, who had probed the Tao realm when he had only mastered the 4 extremities? Wasn't that Wu Huixing a little too strong? Qin Nan's eyes squinted. He was interested in witnessing the strength of a peerless genius like Wu Huixing. Cultivator Zi Hu, now that we don't have the dragon immortal seed, I can lend you a hand when you're retrieving the dragon immortal seed. What do you think? Qin Nan asked without overthinking it. With friend Qin Nan's help, it won't be a problem to retrieve the dragon immortal seed. Zi Hu blinked and said, however, if friend Qin Nan is interested in the dragon immortal seed, it's not like we don't have a chance. After refining the dragon immortal seed, Wu Huixing will surely enter the Earth Immortal Dragon Corpse. Qin Nan nodded slightly and said with a calm smile, we'll talk about it when the time comes. Following it, his figure vanished into thin air as he arrived at the dojo. Who's there? The cultivators and living beings glanced at him simultaneously. Such a powerful aura. Liang Qi, who was fighting over a dragon seed, also raised his head. For the first time, a ripple appeared in his desolate-like eyes. These dragon seeds all belong to me. Chapter 1644. Immortal Comprehending Flower Tree, what's going on? The cultivators were astounded. It was most likely that he had killed 5 peerless geniuses to produce such a wide range of crimson light. Who exactly was the man? How could he be so savage? Besides, he wasn't here before. Did he force his way in? In contrast, the living beings quickly collected their thoughts and executed a series of immortal arts at Qin Nan. They were born according to the will of the heavens and earth, thus they had no idea what the crimson light was. They only felt that Qin Nan's aura was slightly stronger than the young man in a blue robe. Sky desolating saber art. Qin Nan slashed forward like an imperious ruler. The living beings with cultivation of the 5th layer heaven god realm and above were slain one after another as if they had lost their cultivation under his saber intent. Meanwhile, Wan Xiao and Zi Hu collected their thoughts too. They flew to the dojo, and set their eyes on a dragon seed. Another peerless genius? The cultivators were startled. They knew Zihu, but they had never seen the purple-golden godly bird before. Fellow cultivators, let's team up and claim 2 dragon seeds from the young man with blood-red hair. Some cultivators soon collected their thoughts and transmitted their thoughts. 4 peerless geniuses had shown up, and Qin Nan had set his eyes on 3 dragon seeds. In other words, there were only 2 dragon seeds left. There were so many cultivators and living beings here. How were they going to compete for it? They could only claim the dragon seeds from Qin Nan or the other peerless geniuses. Got it. The 5 cultivators immediately responded and locked onto Qin Nan with their divine sense. Meanwhile, the other cultivators also set their eyes on Wan Xiao, Zihu, and Liang Qi. Destruction Saber Domain. Qin Nan made his move once again. He slashed forward and unleashed the destruction saber intent. The living beings that were attacking him and the cultivators were startled. They immediately executed immortal arts to resist the saber domain. Shua. Qin Nan's figure disappeared instantly and reappeared in front of one of the cultivators. He threw a punch at the cultivator's chest, sending him flying with a cry of agony. He didn't stop and continued to do the same. Living beings and cultivators began to fall one after another. Even though the cultivators had summoned the 7-clawed godly dragon, which greatly surpassed Qin Nan's strength, most of them were peak heaven gods. They had only mastered the 3 extremities. Facing the current Qin Nan, they had no power to resist at all. This person's cultivation is too strong. We are no match for him at all. In addition to the cultivators, the living beings had the same thought too. They glanced at the other dragon species. Don't even think about it. However, among these creatures, there were 8 peak heavenly deities, existences who had previously obtained a set amount of natural luck. They weren't intimidated at all, instead stirring up battle intent. Shua. 8 immortal arts burst out and attacked at the same time. Death upon space. Qin Nan dodged the attacks with a flicker and slashed at the rift. The 8 peak heaven gods felt a great chill running down their spines. Before they could react, wisps of saber intense encapsulated their figures. Bang bang bang. The 8 peak heaven gods were severely injured and fell to the ground. Qin Nan flung his sleeves and retrieved the 3 dragon seeds. He glanced at the other side. Wan Xiao and Zi, who were both peerless geniuses. Even though it was a little difficult for them to fend off the attacks from the heaven gods and living beings, it was not a problem for them. They were able to knock an enemy back with every move they made. Upon seeing this, Qin Nan flicked his finger and fired 2 streams of saber intent, knocking the people around the 2 away. The 2 reacted quickly. They reached out their hands and retrieved a dragon seed each. Let's find a place to refine them. Qin Nan landed on Wan Zhao's back with a kick. The latter immediately extended his wings and flew into the distance. Zi, who followed closely behind. He's using a peerless genius as his mount? The cultivators who originally wanted to give chase were shocked when they saw this scene, and they no longer had any thoughts of giving chase. His cultivation has already surpassed mine. I'm afraid he's on par with Wu Huixing. It seems like I still have a chance. Liang Qi's eyes suddenly emitted wisps of demonic aura. His lips curled into an eerie grin, as if he was a completely different person. Time gradually passed. Qin Nan and his crew soon left the dojo. Below them were wisps of immortal light and godly light flickering continuously. It was a sight to behold. Such a strong floral scent. Wan Xiao suddenly sniffed the air. Qin Nan took a deep breath too. His divine sense immediately cleared up and refreshed his mind. The scent, could it be the immortal comprehension flower tree? A look of astonishment appeared in Zi Hu's beautiful eyes. Why would such a rare treasure from the ancient times appear in this world? Even though the small world was a land of treasure, the natural resources and blessed lands it had were nowhere close to the level of the immortal comprehension flower tree. Qin Nan did not respond. He looked ahead. A moment later, a faint blue lake with a circumference of a few thousand li appeared in his sight. At the center of the lake was a land with a circumference of over 100 zhang. Above the ground, there was a 327 zhang tall tree with hundreds of thousands of branches and leaves, standing tall and straight. On the branches in particular, there were flowers with mystical immortal glows blossoming continuously. Every time a flower blossomed, the scent of the heavens and earth would grow stronger. This immortal comprehension flower tree must have existed for a few thousand years. It's no ordinary tree. Let's refine the dragon seeds under it, Qin Nan said. The immortal comprehension flower tree, as its name suggested, was able to help a cultivator comprehend the human immortal realm. Even though the actual effect was not as ridiculous, it was still extremely beneficial to cultivate under the tree, whether it was comprehending martial arts or other things. Wan Shao and Zi, who did not have any objections. They went up to the tree and set up a few forbidding auras and killing formations before taking out the dragon seeds. Let's see what's inside them. Qin Nan's eyes flickered as he glanced at the 3 dragon seeds. He immediately fired a flame to burn them into ashes. A while later, 3 dragon cries exploded in his mind. Chapter 1645. 8 days later, the magnificent force was the force of the dragon tribe. It contained the will of the dragon immortal. Not only could it improve the god force of a cultivator, it could strengthen their immortal soul and flesh too. As for the words, they were 3 ancient immortal arts of the dragon tribe. They were the roaring dragons, the tearing dragons, and the dragon shocking the void art. Each of the immortal arts was a few times stronger than the other immortal art. I didn't expect the fortune inside the dragon seed to be so outstanding. It's on par with an extraordinary succession, Qin Nan murmured. He was multitasking. While comprehending the 3 immortal arts, he was also controlling the force of the dragon tribe. Time passed by slowly. 4 days later, Qin Nan had thoroughly refined the force of the dragon tribe in his body. His god force had reached an unbelievable level. He was emitting wisps of dragon aura too. If his heart moved, this dragon might would be even more vast, causing others to mistakenly think that he was the incarnation of a huge dragon. Roaring dragons, tearing dragons, and dragons shocking the void art. Qin Nan's hands began to perform a series of hand seals. He had fully mastered the 3 immortal arts. It was time for him to test their true strength. Roar! A dragon cry that sounded like it came from the ancient times echoed in Qin Nan's mind. Qin Nan's heart shuddered. He opened his eyes and glanced ahead. For some reason, he had actually arrived in a boundless darkness. At the end of the darkness floated the illusionary figure of an enormous dragon. Every scale on its body was emitting a blinding immortal glow as it unleashed a tremendous aura. All of a sudden, the majestic dragon moved. It opened its mouth and uttered a roar. The darkness shuddered. It reached out its dragon claw and swung it fiercely, shattering the darkness into pieces. Its wings spread open at the same time, causing the void to tremble. Are those the 3 immortal arts? Qin Nan was startled. As soon as he finished the sentence, the magnificent dragon figure executed the 3 immortal arts at an unbelievable pace. The darkness around them began to crumble. Not only that, but there seemed to be some kind of qualitative change that had taken place. The 3 immortal arts no longer existed. They were replaced by a faint, terrifying intent. Could this be the 4th immortal art? Qin Nan's heart shuddered as a thought crossed his mind. It was similar to when he was practicing the forbidden taboo flesh. He could only cultivate the immortal arts after learning the first few immortal arts. Time to comprehend them. Qin Nan soon calmed his thoughts and immersed himself in the immortal arts. Time gradually passed. 4 days later, Qin Nan's aura finally returned to normal. His eyes slowly opened, and the image of a dragon flashed in the depths of his eyes. The immortal arts, the dragon immortal art, which was known as the dragon immortal sky-soaring art. The immortal art, the immortal art. According to Qin Nan's speculation, with his current strength, the art was on par with the sky-stride blow and the death upon the area. As expected of friend Qin Nan, it only took him 8 days to refine the 3 dragon seeds. Zi, who stood not far away. She looked at Qin Nan with a seductive smile. What did friend Qin Nan find this time? Wan Xiao was curious too. It took a total of 8 days? Qin Nan was startled. It was a day longer than what he had expected. It's been more than 9 days since I entered the 9-dragon mystical realm. There are less than 5 hours left until the 10th day. Qin Nan immediately felt a sense of urgency after calculating in his heart. The copper mirror did mention that if he was not confident that he could ascend as an immortal, he could only stay in the 9-dragon mystical realm for 10 days. Otherwise, he might not make it to the last immortal ancient place. Let's talk about it later. I've refined the dragon seeds. Let's enter the earth immortal dragon corpse. Qin Nan soon calmed his thoughts. He landed on Wan Zhao's back with a flicker. Sure. Zi Hu and Wan Zhao's eyes flickered as they immediately accepted the suggestion. They had refined the dragon seeds on the 7th day. They were planning to enter the earth immortal dragon corpse earlier, but they purposely waited for Qin Nan since Wu Huixing might show up at any time. Let's see what the outside world is like. Along the way, Qin Nan checked the 10,000 Dao immortal badge with his divine sense. Countless pieces of information popped up like bamboo shoots after a rain. The 9th immortal ancient place is open. There are only 3 immortal ancient places left. They are the mundane world, the small world of Yin and Yang, and the lunar sky tower. The disciples of the 9-palace golden immortal sect are evacuating from the immortal ancient places to the lunar sky tower and the small world of Yin and Yang. The 5 supreme elders of the 9-palace golden immortal sect are leaving. The mundane world is about to open. The elders of the supreme Taoism factions are heading to the last 3 immortal ancient places. The news about the immortal ancient places was the most eye-catching. Every immortal ancient place would bring more excitement to the 9 heavens immortal realm. The reason being that it was getting closer to the final battle. In addition to it, there were also news about a few thousand cultivators achieving the human immortal realm. Unlike last time, many peerless geniuses who failed in the first immortal ancient place had successfully ascended in the second immortal ancient place, shocking the whole place. Qin Nan noticed that sword god Wu Heng and Zhao Lijian, whom he had fought before, and Qiu Hong and Su Xianji, whom he was familiar with, had all successfully ascended. That being said, in comparison, many peerless geniuses had yet to ascend. They were still fighting in the immortal ancient places. Qin Nan withdrew his divine sense upon seeing this. He was no longer interested in learning about the other important matters, such as how some peerless geniuses had killed someone. The final battle of the ages is about to arrive. Qin Nan's eyes were engulfed in golden flames. The blood in his body began to boil on its own for some reason. At the same time, he had a vague idea in his mind. Even if the 9 dragons' mystical realm had a shocking fortunate encounter, he could not afford to ascend as an immortal. He had to take part in the final battle in the immortal ancient place. The cultivators or peerless geniuses that would arrive at the final immortal ancient places would be the most impressive ones. Friend Qin Nan, some cultivators have entered the earth immortal dragon corpse. Zi Hu's voice suddenly appeared in Qin Nan's ears, which brought him back from his thoughts. He glanced at the enormous dragon corpse at the top of the mountain not far away. The dragon corpse was emitting 2 magnificent glows. It was quite eye-catching. Chapter 1646. The Tao Execution Disciples, the 3 of them immediately flew toward the mouth of the dragon. It should be known that a well-preserved dragon corpse at the Earth Immortal Realm would have an extremely terrifying physical strength. With Qin Nan's current cultivation, even with the heaven-shattering saber, it would take him at least a few hours just to cut a hole in the dragon's body. The flesh of the Earth Immortal Dragon Corpse contained a shocking power too, thus it was extremely beneficial to cultivators. However, due to the reason, they and a few other cultivators had decided to give up on it. They could only go for the dragon heart that was more valuable. It's them. The eyes of many cultivators in the distance flickered with envy. They were unable to enter the dragon corpse since they did not acquire the dragon seed. They had no choice but to stay somewhere else to secure some benefit. Bang! As soon as Qin Nan and his crew landed on the ground, a terrifying gust burst out from deep inside the dragon's mouth. The gust was strong enough to kill a first-layer heaven god, Wan Shao and Zi, who immediately unleashed their god force to defend themselves. However, Qin Nan completely ignored it. He activated the golden eyes of the divine god of battle and glanced downward. Everything inside the Earth Immortal Dragon Corpse was covered in a crystalline layer with an immortal glow. It was not covered in blood like they had imagined. Those numerous intertwined enormous meridians were like immortal rope. They were not dead yet, and were slowly surging with waves of powerful energy. As for the strange organs that were as huge as a hill, they were emitting shocking immortal glows that lit up the surroundings. Especially that enormous dragon heart. It was like a primeval immortal palace, and it was grand, and contained unimaginably vast immortal insight. At that moment there was a cultivator around the dragon heart, as well as a strange creature that was 10 meters tall. It was completely blue in color and had 8 pitch-black eyes on its forehead. They were fighting one another and trying to get their hands on the dragon heart. "It's you guys!" The cultivator and the creature soon noticed their presence. Their eyes widened when they raised their heads. They were 3 peerless geniuses, especially Qin Nan, whose cultivation had reached a terrifying level. "Fellow cultivators, the dragon heart is ours." Wan Shao was the first to let out a roar. He spread his wings and dove downward. As the golden-winged great Peng, if it could obtain this dragon heart, not only would it have a high chance of ascending to immortality, it could even strengthen its bloodline. Qin Nan and Zi, who were just about to attack when they suddenly sensed something and turned around at the same time. Liang Qi, whose eyes were like a desert, walked down from the sky. "Friend Qin Nan, I mean you no harm. Wu Huixing will be here soon. Why don't we work together? You are born with the body of misfortune, and I am." Light appeared in Liang Qi's eyes as he took the initiative to express his goodwill. In the past few days, he had already thoroughly understood Qin Nan's background. "Liang 7, you disappoint me too much. You actually want to team up with others to deal with me. You are not fit to be my opponent in the future." At this moment, an indifferent voice sounded from the clouds. An ordinary-looking young man wearing gray linen appeared in the air. "Wu Huixing." Liang Qi, Zi Hu, and the surrounding cultivators were startled. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment too. Apart from a shocking will inside Wu Huixing's body, he also sensed a faint will of the dragon immortal. Was it something he obtained after refining the dragon immortal seed? Wu Huixing glanced at Qin Nan and Zi Hu from above. He did not say a word as he unleashed his aura. A crimson-red glow over 60 zhang long burst out from his body. A strong murderous aura left cracks in the rift nearby. If he had given off a feeling of indifference and loftiness before, then the current him was like an unrivaled immortal of slaughter. The number of peerless geniuses and cultivators he had killed was a lot more than Qin Nan. Friend Qin Nan, Liang Qi and Zi, who glanced at Qin Nan simultaneously. They assumed Wu Huixing was about to make his move. "In the name of the dragon immortal, I declare to the heavens and earth." Wu Huixing performed a hand seal. Illusionary figures of dragons floated behind him, as if a group of dragons had just appeared. His voice was incredibly loud too, echoing in the whole world. All precepts retreat. Wu Huixing finished performing the hand seal. Qin Nan and the cultivators felt the whole world shuddering slightly, as if countless chains were breaking into pieces. Is he breaking the rules of this place? Does that mean he's trying to? A thought crossed Qin Nan's mind upon seeing this. After what happened in the Kanglan continent, he had a certain understanding of the changes of the rules. Wu Huixing's eyes emitted a white glow as he glanced into the distance. His lips curled into a cold grin. Even my order in the name of the Dragon Immortal is useless now? I would like to see if you're going to break into pieces. Wu Huixing let out a roar. The illusionary figures of dragons behind him immediately entered his body. A brilliant immortal glow and a magnificent dragon aura burst out from his body. From afar, he looked like the reincarnation of the Dragon Immortal. Bang! Wu Huixing made his move. Facing the distant horizon, he threw out a punch. That formless Dragon Immortal will gushed out into the distance. In the next instant, the ground began to tremble violently. Strong gusts descended from the sky and turned into tornadoes. What's going on? The cultivators were astounded. What did Wu Huixing do? How could the heavens and earth change color? Immediately after, a loud bang resounded throughout the entire small world. It was as if a peerless power had shattered the supreme crystal wall of this world. Meanwhile, outside the illusionary figures of the 9 dragons, above the palaces of the beasts, even though nothing had happened, countless explosions took place in the rift, causing the cultivators to raise their heads with blank faces. Following this, they witnessed a shocking sight. The invisible barrier encapsulating the illusionary figures of the 9 dragons began to crack, before it exploded into light dots following a blast. The biggest illusionary figure of the dragon slowly lowered its head, as if it had just woken up. It opened its mouth and revealed a passage. Behind the passage was a whole new world. The cultivators were dumbfounded. Chapter 1647. Extraordinary courage, ha ha ha, the heavens didn't let me down. A cultivator deep inside the palace of beasts was the first to react. He burst out laughing and dived into the mouth of the dragon. Here's our chance. Let's go inside at once. The rest of the cultivators swiftly collected their thoughts and dived into the dragon too. Even though they had no idea what was going on inside, if they were able to go deep inside, it meant they had a chance to acquire some extraordinary succession. Such a pity, the dragons I summoned aren't strong enough. They can't even go deep inside the palace of beasts. The remaining cultivators could not help but sigh and shake their heads. The chance was right in front of them, yet they had no chance of taking it. What's going on? Why am I able to go deep inside the palace of beasts? One of the cultivators was astounded all of a sudden. He had only moved subconsciously, yet he did not expect to actually go deep inside the palace of beasts. What? We can go deep inside the palace of beasts? Quick, fellow cultivators, let's go inside at once. Why are we still competing for the loot inside the palace? We can enter the illusionary figures of the 9 dragons now. The crowd burst into an uproar. The cultivators were extremely excited. On top of that, the cultivators who were unable to come to the 9-dragon mystical realm, as the dragons they summoned were not strong enough. They soon discovered that the invisible obstruction had completely disappeared. Immediately they rushed toward the depths with their fastest speed. A while later, in the small world. As I thought. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. Friend Qin Nan, do you know what Wu Huixing is doing? Wu asked softly after noticing Qin Nan's reaction. It's simple. Cultivator Wu has used the will of the Dragon Immortal that he obtained from refining the Dragon Immortal seed to nullify the rules here. Qin Nan said with a calm smile, these rules are the ones that require the Dragon Immortal seed to enter the Earth Immortal Dragon Corpse, and the seven-clawed godly dragon to come to this small world. In other words, you can go wherever you want now. The cultivators were dumbfounded upon hearing this. Did Wu Huixing just nullify the rules here? Just as this question arose in their minds, they suddenly sensed something and turned around to look. In the distance, there were a few rays of divine light rapidly flying over. The cultivators outside had really come in. Up until now, some people were still confused. However, Liang Qi, Zi Hu and a few other cultivators were jolted awake. Whether it was the dragon deity seed or the earth deity dragon corpse, both could be considered as extraordinary inheritances, or even beyond extraordinary. Normally, even a peerless genius could ascend as an immortal. Wu Huixing was unable to ascend successfully because he lacked a grand occasion. The reason he did this was to attract all the cultivators here and create a grand scene. In other words, they were witnessing his ascension from a god to an immortal. Upon having this thought, Zi Hu and the others could not help but take a deep breath. This Wu Huixing was truly courageous. One had to know that after attracting so many cultivators, no one could tell what would happen in the end. Not bad, you have a good eye. Wu Huixing glanced at Qin Nan before facing the crowd. His gaze was like that of a peerless emperor looking down. The rules have been nullified. Let's team up and compete against me. It was a simple sentence, but it contained a great domineering aura. Following it, he immediately went into the dragon corpse without taking another look at it. Here's our chance, fellow cultivators, let's go. The cultivators soon collected their thoughts. They flew toward the dragon corpse with overjoyed looks. Regardless of what Wu Huixing was planning, it was still a great opportunity for them. Even though Wu Huixing was strong, he was not strong enough to make them lose their courage. Qin Nan, Zi Hu, and Liang Qi exchanged glances with one another before flying into the dragon corpse too. In the distance, more cultivators were making their way to the dragon corpse. A great battle had already broken out inside the dragon corpse. Wan Shao had already made his way to the dragon heart. He executed powerful immortal arts to beat the cultivator and the creature into a corner. Wan Shao, watch out! Qin Nan's voice suddenly entered Wan Zhao's mind. Wan Shao shuddered slightly. He immediately sensed a terrifying chill approaching him at a shocking pace. His expression changed. Without any hesitation, the feathers all over his body exploded with dazzling divine light, blocking the killing intent. A peerless genius of the beast tribe? I'll spare your life. Wu Huixing's aura skyrocketed as he performed a hand seal. Thousands of icy sword intents blossomed in the rift and formed a sword formation. Crap! Wan Shao felt a chill running down his spine. He immediately spread his wings and shattered the sword intents like two peerless blades. Wrath of the Dragon! There was no way Wan Shao would back off so easily. He summoned the illusionary figure of an ancient dragon and merged them into one. His shocking anger solidified into a murderous aura. Ordinary people would not be able to achieve such a feat, but Wan Zhao's true form was the golden-winged giant Peng. Unrivaled sword of the world! Majestic god pagoda! Liang Qi and Zi Hu, who were flying toward the dragon's heart, immediately executed an immortal art and a rare artifact without hesitation upon seeing this. The three peerless geniuses were teaming up. In the nick of time, Wu Huixing's expression remained the same. He raised his right hand and summoned a wisp of dragon flames on his palm. Whoosh! Following it, his figure vanished into thin air and reappeared behind Wan Shao. What's going on? Wan Zhao's eyes widened. Did this Wu Huixing master a technique similar to Qin Nan's too? Crap! Following it, Wan Shao was startled. Wu Huixing, who had arrived behind him, summoned countless lightning strikes on his hand and slapped at Wan Zhao's back. He had no time to react at such a distance. Whoosh! At this moment, with the sound of something breaking through the air, a hand suddenly reached out and grabbed Wu Huixing's arm, making it impossible for him to move or press down. Wu Huixing raised his brows slightly. He glanced at Qin Nan, who had appeared before him, and said calmly, "You're indeed a peerless genius too, but that's fine too, the four of you can come at me together." Qin Nan let out a calm smile upon hearing the words, "Together? It's better if you all come at me together." Following it, a shocking aura burst out of his body. It seems like you're no ordinary peerless genius, but how dare you boast like that?" Wu Huixing's expression remained the same. He was like a peerless emperor looking down on his subject. However, before he could finish, the hand that was grabbing his arm suddenly emitted a blinding glow. Chapter 1648. The Soul of the Earth Immortal Minor Success Stage of the Tao Realm? Wu Huixing, Liang Qi, and the cultivators that entered the dragon corpse were astounded. The latter, in particular, could not believe it. It was the minor success stage of the Tao realm. Rumors said that even some of the peerless rulers had yet to achieve it. Besides, if Qin Nan successfully ascended as an immortal, he would be considered an exceptional genius. There were only a handful of geniuses in the Nine Heavens immortal realm that were worthy of being called a peerless genius. Well. However, to everyone's surprise, not only was Wu Huixing not intimidated, he even said the word "well" 3 times in a row. In the depths of his eyes, there was an invisible flame burning. "I didn't think I would be so lucky to stumble into a peerless genius who has achieved the minor success stage of the Tao realm. Friend Qin Nan, either way, you must fight me with all you have. Regardless of the outcome, I, Wu Huixing, will owe you a favor." Wu Huixing's aura skyrocketed as mystical rays flickered. His arm that was shattered began to regenerate at a shocking pace. He was the first core disciple of the Tao Execution Gate. The art of Tao seeking that their sect had learned was the Tao Execution True Scriptures. The Tao Execution True Scriptures were extremely mystical. Once someone learned it, their strength would greatly surpass cultivators of the same level. As such, ordinary peerless geniuses were no match for him. However, such a remarkable ability came with great restrictions too. If he wanted to ascend as an immortal, he would have to defeat or kill a very powerful genius, or a few geniuses, or countless cultivators. If he wanted to achieve the Tao realm, he would have to defeat or kill a peerless genius who had mastered the minor success stage of the Tao realm. He had been looking for such a cultivator before the immortal ancient place was opened, yet he had yet to find any. And now, the opponent he was looking for had shown up before him. "Very well. You didn't disappoint me." Qin Nan unleashed a strong battle intent upon seeing this. He said, "I shall fight you with all I have today." Following this, he slashed forward with the heaven-shattering saber, firing terrifying saber intents in Wu Huixing's direction. Originally, Qin Nan did not like Wu Huixing's high and mighty attitude. If Wu Huixing had cowered after seeing that he had achieved small success in the Tao realm, he would have been very unhappy. However, Wu Huixing's reaction was out of everyone's expectations, and it also changed his opinion of him greatly. In his heart, he could not help but feel a strong desire to fight. "Friend Qin Nan, many thanks." Wu Huixing brought his fists together and uttered a roar. Wisps of dragon immortal will circled his figure and formed a dragon immortal battle armor. In the face of Qin Nan's terrifying saber will, he did not retreat. Instead, he advanced and instantly threw out thousands of fist shadows. That majestic force forcibly dispersed the saber wills one after another. Sky stride blow. Qin Nan's figure flickered and appeared on the other side like a demon god. Dragon immortal instant kill technique. Wu Huixing performed a hand seal with one hand, and his figure also disappeared. Bang bang bang! A series of deafening explosions immediately reverberated throughout the entire dragon corpse, and countless terrifying auras rippled out. The cultivators were astounded seeing this. The battle between the two was simply too terrifying. It did not feel like two heaven-god realm cultivators, but two human immortals instead. Such a shocking will. Wan Xiao, Liang Qi, and Zi Hu exclaimed in their hearts. Both Wu Huixing's attitude and Qin Nan's reaction allowed them to see his will deeply etched in his bones. It explained why Qin Nan and Wu Huixing were so strong. Let's compete for the dragon heart. Wan Xiao and the others quickly collected their thoughts and attacked the dragon heart. Their attacks inevitably collided with one another. They had mastered the four extremities, thus they had their own will too. It was unlikely that they would be influenced by Qin Nan and Wu Huixing so easily. Is this an Earth Immortal Realm dragon corpse? Gasp! The things inside it are all shocking treasures. The cultivators are already competing for them. Fellow cultivators, let's team up and go inside. Right at this moment, voices came from outside the dragon corp. The cultivators who had rushed over had already arrived. The cultivators who were initially inside the dragon corpse immediately collected their thoughts. They exchanged glances with one another and joined hands to enter the battle between the three peerless geniuses. However, no matter how they tried, no one dared to interfere with the battle between Qin Nan and Wu Huixing. They maintained a distance of over 1,000 zhang from the battle, not daring to take another step forward. The reason being that the distance was only for the two emperors. Dragon Immortal soaring across the sky. Qin Nan transformed into the illusionary figure of a dragon immortal over a few hundred zhang long. It soared into the sky and was about to soar into the sky. Seal of the 8 Emperors. Wu Huixing did not dodge the attack. He gathered several seals of the emperors on his hands and slammed them downward. Bang! Following a loud crash, the seals shattered into pieces. Wu Huixing was knocked a few steps back too. Qin Nan did not stop there. The heaven-shattering saber sprang forward and slashed at Wu Huixing like a peerless Fei Hong. Dragon Immortal Sword shaking the 8 desolates. To Qin Nan's surprise, Wu Huixing advanced instead of backing away. He allowed the heaven-shattering saber to penetrate his chest, leaving a huge bloody hole. He grabbed at the rift and summoned 2 illusionary swords, which transformed into a huge sword flower looming at Qin Nan. Such a strange flesh, it can recover instantly after being injured. In the nick of time, Qin Nan squinted when he saw the bloody hole on Wu Huixing's chest recovering. Wisps of Dao glow burst out of his body and flowed on the crimson-golden battle armor, granting it a magnificent aura. Unstoppable Step, Destruction Battle Fist. He cast 2 spells at the same time. After images of his fists appeared all around Wu Huixing, making it impossible for him to escape. Wu Huixing's physical body was able to heal injuries in an instant. He could even recover his previous limbs and so on. There must be some secret behind this. Since he could not see through it with his eyes, he would have to find out what it was. Roar! Chapter 1649. The Battle of the Emperors. What's going on? Both the cultivators inside the dragon corpse and the cultivators outside the dragon corpse turned pale. This dragon's roar was simply too terrifying, almost causing their minds to collapse. Following it, the dragon heart and other parts of the dragon corpse emitted a white glow and soared into the sky. Bang! A vast dragon might instantly washed over the entire world like a flood that broke through the floodgates. An ancient dragon over 30,000 zhang long emitting a white glow and an immortal intent appeared in the distance. That pair of incomparably huge, ice-cold, and deathly still dragon eyes overlooked everything. At that instant, everything in the world lost its brilliance, as if the supreme ruler of the space had appeared. Could it be the dragon soul of the Earth Immortal Dragon Corpse? Wan Xiao, Zi Hu, and the others subconsciously blurted out as they peered through the dragon corpse and stared at the dragon shadow in the sky. What? The dragon soul of the Earth Immortal Dragon Corpse? The cultivators were astounded upon hearing the words. Unlike human cultivators, the beast souls of the ancient great beasts possessed great strength and will. If they were able to refine the beast souls, the benefits would be unimaginable. The dragon heart, dragon tendons, etc. were incomparable to the beast souls of ancient beasts. Whoosh! At this moment, Wu Huixing's figure suddenly moved. He directly passed through the dragon corpse and flew towards the huge dragon soul. It's the dragon soul of the earth, immortal dragon corpse. What are you waiting for? Let's do it together. Even a part of it might help us ascend as an immortal, let alone all of it. Outside the dragon corpse, the cultivators who were looting the place immediately collected their thoughts. They immediately executed their immortal arts and flew toward the dragon soul. Haha, the dragon soul is mine. A cultivator suddenly appeared behind the earth, immortal dragon soul. He laughed loudly, then summoned a giant hand made of divine power to grab the dragon soul. In the nick of time, the earth deity dragon soul's cold eyes lit up with two wisps of flames. It swung its enormous tail in the air. A cry of agony echoed in the surroundings. The cultivator's body was struck by an invisible force. It began to shatter into pieces inch by inch, turning into a mist of blood that filled the air. Not only that, but a series of rapid sounds of breaking through the air suddenly rang out. Illusionary ancient swords over a few hundred zhang long appeared out of nowhere and slashed downward like a rain of sword. Not good, run. The cultivators who were about to make their moves were startled. They immediately backed away. Friend Qin Nan, I'm a member of the Dao execution sect. I'll use any means necessary to kill a strong enemy. That's the only way to achieve my Dao. So, don't blame me for having an unfair battle. Wu Huixing shouted as he stared at the earth god dragon soul. He quickly formed a seal with his hands and said, "In the name of the dragon deity, I summon the dragon's soul and place it in my body." As soon as the word body was spoken, a hand seal was formed. It turned into a shocking will and sank into the dragon's soul. A strange sight took place. Not only was Wu Huixing not attacked by the dragon soul's body began to break into pieces. It turned into light dots and entered Wu Huixing's body. His aura skyrocketed immediately. He had refined the dragon immortal seed before, thus it was not difficult for him to subdue the dragon soul. That being said, there was no way he could refine it straight away. He could only absorb the dragon's soul temporarily to improve his cultivation. I won't blame you. We're in the middle of ascending as an immortal. There's no such thing as a fair battle. Just use whatever you have. Qin Nan's blood hair drifted wildly. His eyes were engulfed in golden flames. That being said, I won't let you claim the dragon's soul on your own. His figure vanished into thin air and reappeared in the air. Meanwhile, he flicked his finger, firing countless Dao glows into the sky. They formed a giant net encapsulating the enormous dragon soul. Roar! The dragon soul let out a roar as if it was aware of something, shattering the rift in all directions. However, it stopped moving after a slight struggle. The light dots entered Qin Nan's body too. Even though it was a lot slower than Wu Huixing's, his aura grew stronger too. Even though he had yet to refine the dragon immortal seed, he had refined 3 dragon immortal seed. Besides, the dragon soul had lost its consciousness a long time ago. It was no longer as strong as it used to be after a few thousand years. Qin Nan's will and the Dao glow of the greater success stage of the Dao realm were enough to subdue it. Well, well, well. Wu Huixing was excited instead of being enraged. Qin Nan, come and fight me. Even if you behead me today, I will have no regrets. He let out a roar and turned into a 10-clawed immortal dragon. His enormous claws tore the rift apart and grabbed at Qin Nan. Dragon immortal sky-tearing art. Haha, Wu Huixing, I won't kill you. I want to win without a fight. Qin Nan's laughter shook the surroundings, as his battle intent rose to its peak. White slaying flying spirit, dragon immortal soaring across the sky. Qin Nan slashed at the rift with the heaven-shattering saber. He turned into the illusionary figure of a dragon immortal and soared into the sky. Bang! 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 The sky within a radius of several thousand miles fell into a huge tremor. Wu Huixing had obtained 6 dragon souls, while Qin Nan had obtained 4 dragon souls. Both of them were greatly strengthened, allowing their strength to reach the human immortal realm. Looking from afar, the two of them looked like 2 dragon immortals fighting in the sky. How terrifying! So this is the real battle between 2 emperors. This Qin Nan and Wu Huixing are no match for us. The cultivators were lost in their thoughts when they saw the shocking sight. Unknowingly, their minds and wills were being suppressed. In addition to them, even Wan Xiao, Zi Hu, and Liang Qi were greatly affected too. They were all peerless geniuses, yet there was such a huge difference between them. Who would have thought? Qin Nan is so imperious when he unleashes his full strength. Wan Xiao mumbled to himself. The others might not be able to tell from the battle, but he, Zi Hu, and Liang Qi were able to tell. From the beginning to the end, Wu Huixing suffered tremendous suppression. Chapter 1650. The Gentleman's Promise, Unstoppable Step, Desolated Dragon Saber Art. Qin Nan's figure descended from the sky all of a sudden and slashed downward. Apart from the ancient desolation, the saber intense also contained the shocking will of the dragon immortal, granting it a lot stronger than before. Wu Huixing's scales emitted an immortal glow as he swung his enormous dragon claws at the rift above him at a strange angle. The rift immediately collapsed and turned into black holes. Even though Qin Nan's saber intents were extremely powerful, they could not resist the power of the black holes. They were sucked into them within the blink of an eye. Destruction Battle Fist. Qin Nan's roar exploded behind Wu Huixing. He had used the Skystride blow to come here and executed his 2 strongest intents at lightning speed. Everything happened so quickly that Wu Huixing didn't even have time to react. All he heard was a loud explosion. The dragon claws, dragon tails, etc. that Wu Huixing had summoned were shattered into pieces and turned into a mist of blood. However, the moment Wu Huixing's dragon body shattered into pieces, a faint glow flickered and returned his flesh to normal. The roar of the swords, shaking the 9 continents. Wu Huixing immediately executed his counterattack. 188 ancient dragon swords appeared in the air and turned into thousands of sword flowers under his will. Wu Huixing, I've seen through the secrets of your flesh. Qin Nan let out a roar. His battle intent grew stronger as he unleashed his fist intents and saber intents simultaneously. An unprecedented storm surged across the place. Bang bang bang! Wan Xiao, Liang Qi, Zi Hu, and most of the cultivators fixed their eyes on the battle as the explosions took place. The changes that took place within a single breath, the clashes between the intents were like a spectacular sight, attracting their attention. The enormous dragon corpse and the various natural treasures were all thrown to the back of their mind. Destruction Saber. Qin Nan floated in the air as he grabbed hold of the perfect opportunity to insert his will into the heaven-shattering saber and slashed forward. Shwa! The world was snow-white and it was chilly. Wu Huixing's eyes widened. He did not even have the time to perform a hand seal before the terrifying saber ray slashed at his enormous dragon body. He let out a muffled groan, and his dragon body shattered again, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky. 6-eyed demonic sword sutra. 6 eyes descend, locking down the heavens and peering into the earth. However, in the blink of an eye, his voice could be heard once again. The eerie glow that had vanished for a brief moment reappeared, trying to reform his flesh and unleash a powerful attack. Wu Huixing, I've already told you. I've already seen through the secrets of your body. Under the crowd's gaze, Qin Nan's aura rose to an unbelievable level. His voice was like the sound of an immortal, intimidating the surroundings. Will of the battle god, world-shattering strike. He gathered all his battle intent and turned into a shocking battle glow. It seemed to have transcended time and space as it slammed into the eerie glow. A cry of agony echoed in the ears of the crowd. The shattered body of the dragon did not recover. Instead, a stone orb with the size of a fist emitting a shocking murderous aura appeared in the blood mist. Wu Huixing's illusionary figure behind the stone orb wore a painful expression. The stone orb was something he had refined after practicing the general outline of the Tao execution. It was called the Tao execution heart. By relying on this heart, he could instantly repair his physical body and obtain an enormous amount of divine power that far exceeded that of ordinary people. On top of it, the more enemies he killed, the stronger the Tao execution heart would become. However, the Tao execution heart had merged with the immortal soul he had refined and the origin of his life force. Once it was damaged, his immortal soul and other things would be severely injured too. Wu Huixing is going to lose? Wan Xiao, Liang Qi, Zi Hu, and the rest of the cultivators were startled. Dragon immortal soaring art. There was no way Qin Nan would miss out on such a great opportunity. He did not waste any time. He sprang into the sky and attacked the stone orb. Qin Nan, I know you've discovered the secret behind it, but what difference does it make? Wu Huixing's illusionary figure suddenly unleashed a ferocious aura. Runes of the Tao execution appeared between the heavens and earth. I'm a disciple of the Tao execution disciple. I specialize in executing the great Tao. Today, I shall destroy your great Tao and ascend as an immortal to peek into the Tao realm. Wisps of dragon immortal qi immediately flew toward Qin Nan from all directions and turned into a peerless dragon spear within the blink of an eye. The dragon spear danced in the air and turned into a tremendous glow. It sprang at Qin Nan ferociously as if it was carrying the power of the entire space. If he only had the moves he had before, what right did he have to challenge Qin Nan? He had a backup plan, one that specifically targeted the Tao execution disciple. What a joke! To his surprise, a loud roar exploded all of a sudden. It felt like the heavens and earth had frozen. You may be able to destroy the Tao of cultivators, the Tao of peerless geniuses, or even the Tao of the world, but you will never be able to destroy my Tao. You will only be defeated. An ancient blue glow burst out from Qin Nan's back with an ancient aura. At that instant, his murderous aura and everything else vanished. It was replaced by an imperious aura, fighting against the heavens, fighting against the earth, standing proudly among the crowd. Kill! Wu Huixing was not shaken by the imperious aura. He poured all his will and strength into the dragon's spear. He had no way of backing off, nor would he back off. He was going to use all his strength to defeat the man before him and defeat him in front of the crowd. Buzz! His Tao execution heart suddenly emitted wisps of immortal glow as wisps of terrifying immortal aura surged into the surroundings. Even though he had yet to defeat Qin Nan, his determination of the Tao execution disciple, his will, and the fact that he was willing to challenge an expert had allowed the power in his body to evolve. In other words, he was trying to ascend as an immortal instinctively. Is it time to ascend? Great! My saber has yet to be stained with the immortal blood of a peerless genius. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with golden flames. The Tao runes of the divine god of battle in his body began to emit a faint glow as if they were influenced by his will. Qin Nan, the 13th immortal ancient place has opened. Meanwhile, the copper mirror's icy voice echoed in Qin Nan's mind. The last 2 immortal ancient places are reacting. If you don't have the confidence to ascend as an immortal, you should head to the world of yin and yang at full speed. Don't waste a single second. Chapter 1651. The first supremacy. In her last sentence, there was a rare hint of seriousness. Can't afford to waste a single second? Can't we wait for half the period of an incense stick? After hearing the words, it was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured onto Qin Nan's body, causing his battle intent to be greatly extinguished. He blurted out, "It's rare to see such a satisfying battle. It was most boring to defeat one's opponent easily in a battle." He had always been looking forward to a battle where both sides could unleash their strongest will when the gap between their strengths was not too huge. There are too many things that are related to you. There are too many uncertainties. Even I have no idea what's going to happen if you keep wasting time. The copper mirror's voice was icy. If you're looking for a satisfying battle, I'm more than happy to oblige. Qin Nan's lips twisted upon hearing this. Wasn't he asking for trouble if he were to fight the copper mirror with his current strength? However, he quickly made up his mind. The golden flames in his eyes calmed down. His battle intent completely vanished. "Cultivator Wu, I'm sorry, I won't be able to fight with you any longer. The last 2 immortal ancient places are about to open. If I don't go now, I won't be able to ascend as an immortal." Qin Nan brought his fists together with an apologetic look. He understood his opponent's will. He also knew that his opponent was desperate for the battle. "You!" Wu Huixing halted in the air. He did not expect Qin Nan to leave at such a crucial moment. His expression began to change. Even though he had started to ascend as an immortal because of the battle, he had yet to achieve the minor success stage of the Tao realm. According to the will described in the general outline of the Tao execution Tao, he should not care about Qin Nan and insist on fighting him instead of letting him leave. However, wouldn't that make him a petty person? Besides, his opponent no longer had the will to fight. What was the point of forcing him to fight? Qin Nan. Wu Huixing took a deep breath. Even though his eyes were filled with a strong unwillingness, he still said, "If that's the case, I won't force you to stay." But Wu Huixing suddenly changed the topic. He clenched his teeth and said, "You must come and participate in the battle of the strongest immortal. When the time comes, we will have a great battle." When Qin Nan heard this, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile. His opinion of Wu Huixing had changed once again. "All right, I promise you." He enunciated each word clearly. He would definitely accept this challenge. "Wan Shao, the last 2 immortal ancient places are about to open. We will head there immediately. You can't ascend to immortality here. If you stay here for too long, you'll miss your final opportunity." Qin Nan immediately transmitted his thought to Wan Shao after finishing the sentence. "Who said that you can't ascend to immortality here? Fine, I'll go, okay?" Wan Shao was about to reject the offer, but when he saw Qin Nan was about to attack, he rolled his eyes and soared into the sky. Inwardly, he was also leaning towards the next immortal ancient, seizing an extraordinary inheritance. What happened? The cultivators below were all at a loss. They had no idea why Qin Nan would leave all of a sudden when it was already the most crucial moment. Was Qin Nan scared? "Even though every one of you here has disappointed me, but I'm about to ascend as an immortal. I shall use your lives as a sacrifice to achieve the human immortal realm." Wu Huixing regained his usual attitude. He floated in the air and looked down at the crowd with a calm tone. He performed a hand seal at the same time, summoning countless dragon claws from the rift and slapping them at the cultivators. He wasn't joking. He was going to kill them all. However, it had nothing to do with Qin Nan. Not long after, he and Wan Shao left the 9 Dragons' mystical realm and flew to the world of yin and yang. "Brother Nan, the last 2 immortal ancient places are about to open. Which one are you heading to? Qin Nan, the last one. Some of the badges in his summer ring transmitted their thoughts too. They were from Qiu Hong, Su Xianji, the three immortal emperors, and the Blood-Eye Heaven God who had disappeared for a long time. What was worth mentioning was that the Blood-Eye Heaven God had successfully ascended as an immortal and achieved the human immortal realm. He was now known as the Blood-Eye Human Immortal. Qin Nan replied with his thoughts and glanced at the 10,000 Dao Immortal badge. Even though it had only been a few hours, he could easily tell that the whole Nine Heavens immortal realm was in an uproar judging from the messages he received. Countless eyes were fixed on the Shangxingtian small immortal realm. The disciples of the supreme Taoism factions, the disciples of the peerless rulers, and the cultivators were making their way to one of the two immortal ancient places. By the way, Copper Mirror, why are we going to the world of Yin and Yang instead of the lunar sky tower? Qin Nan suddenly realized something. He transmitted his thoughts to the red string. I just took a look. The lunar sky tower is closer to me. There was no reaction from the red string. As Qin Nan was about to become speechless, the familiar icy voice echoed in his mind. The lunar sky tower is suitable for those who are good at music, or those who are talented in music. Do you have it? Qin Nan was startled. He did not expect the lunar sky tower to have such a feature. The rhythm here did not refer to the melody of the music, but to all kinds of musical instruments as well as all kinds of music. It was true that he was not good at music. He did not think he was talented in it either. That being said, if he really had to mention it, the Roaring Dragon's art that he had learned might be a little bit more suitable. I see, thanks. Qin Nan brought his fists together. It's the last immortal ancient place, you should seize the opportunity. You should be careful too, I have a bad feeling about it. The Copper Mirror spoke after a slight hesitation. Qin Nan's expression shuddered upon hearing this. The Copper Mirror's personality was as cold as ice. She would never remind him of the dangers he had encountered in the past even if she was aware of them. Now that she suddenly reminded him, it clearly implied that her hunch was very strong. On top of it, Qin Nan also recalled the words "be careful" that he had mentioned before. Judging from the two, it was surely going to be a great disaster. I got it. Qin Nan took a deep breath. He soon calmed his thoughts. He would deal with whatever came his way. If anything happened, he still had the seal that the divine god of battle left for him. Either way, he had to ascend as an immortal. By the way, the Copper Mirror's voice suddenly echoed in his mind. 3 months later, don't call me Copper Mirror anymore. You must call me the strongest supreme. Chapter 1652. Flowing Moon Dao City. Chapter 1660. Flowing Moon Dao City. The strongest Nine Heavens Supreme? Qin Nan was startled. He did not expect the Copper Mirror to achieve such a level so soon. Then I shall congratulate the strongest Nine Heavens Supreme in advance. Qin Nan collected his thoughts and said in a mocking tone. The icy voice did not appear again. Qin Nan was used to it. He immediately set off on his journey. Time gradually passed. A day later, the two arrived at the world of Yin and Yang. They were immediately attracted by the sight as soon as they arrived. A majestic ancient city was floating in the air before them. The city was over 50,000 li long. It had a magnificent appearance as if it was made of ancient iron. The brilliant moonlight on the walls in particular had a hint of Tao in tint. Both Qin Nan and Wan Shao, and the cultivators that were flying into the city from all directions suddenly felt minuscule, like ants standing in front of a giant. The city had surpassed the level of an immortal weapon. It had reached the half-Tao weapon level. This city is called the Flowing Moon Ancient City. Those guys from the Nine Palace Golden Immortal sect purposely came up with it to set up a huge bet. Wan Shao unleashed his beastly force while he was explaining. His feathers were purple-golden, and his aura was completely different too. The last two immortal ancient places, especially the world of yin and yang, would attract many peerless geniuses and authorities, or even peerless rulers. He had to hide it well. He could not afford to let anyone know what he was up to. This 9-palace golden immortal sect is pretty stubborn. Qin Nan shrugged speechlessly. He brought his fists together toward the rift in the distance and transmitted his voice. Seniors, I'll be heading into the city first. The Bliss Immortal Emperor's voice immediately echoed in his mind. Go ahead, the three of us will stay here. The Ground Spirit Immortal Emperor said, Qin Nan, this is your last chance. You must make good use of it. Don't worry, even if you're in great trouble, we'll settle it for you. The Red Zither Immortal Emperor and the Bliss Immortal Emperor nodded and reminded. Whether or not Qin Nan could successfully ascend to immortality was extremely important to them. If he failed, then they would have no hope of obtaining the items in the Supreme Cave Abode. Seniors, don't worry. This time, I will definitely ascend to immortality. Qin Nan promised, and then he didn't waste any more time and flew into the city with Wan Shao. The moment they entered the city, even the two of them couldn't help but be stunned. Endless clamor enveloped the two of them. Countless cultivators walked to and fro on the street. There was no end in sight. It was like a sea of people. When they were watching from afar, the two of them didn't feel anything at all. However, they didn't expect so many cultivators to come this time. Just from the places we can see, there are no less than 30,000 cultivators. Then, wouldn't there be hundreds of thousands of cultivators in this city? Wan Shao clicked his tongue. Hundreds of thousands of cultivators was not exactly a shocking number for a huge city. However, it should be known that more than half of these hundreds of thousands of people were aiming for the world of yin-yang. Besides, most of them were above the 5th-layer Earth God realm. It was rare to see any cultivators below the 5th-layer Earth God realm. Very well. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. In his opinion, the more cultivators there were, the better it would be for him. He was looking for a magnificent scene. I believe you must be the infamous god of misfortune, Qin Nan? A voice appeared. A young man with a cultivation of the peak Earth God realm, wearing the pattern of the 9 palaces, came up to Qin Nan in a respectful manner. What's the matter? Wan Shao raised his brows. Judging from the young man's outfit, he was an inner disciple of the 9 palaces' golden immortal sect. Cultivator Qin Nan, you're one of the peerless geniuses in the Shangxingtian small immortal realm. According to our elder's order, we would like to invite you to stay at the Palace of Heroes. The young man made an inviting gesture. The rest of the peerless geniuses are there too. Our great elder will be hosting a feast for the peerless geniuses tonight. I hope Cultivator Qin Nan is willing to give the 9 palaces' golden immortal sect some face. Qin Nan said without hesitation after hearing this, sorry to trouble you. Qiu Hong, Su Xianji, and the others were most likely waiting for him at the Palace of Heroes. He might as well attend the feast to see how many peerless geniuses were there. The young man expressed his gratitude and led the way. They weaved through the crowd and arrived at the back of the ancient city. A few hundred palaces of different sizes with different patterns of deities and demons appeared before Qin Nan and the others. Qin Nan tried to peek into the palaces with his eye technique, but he was immediately stopped by an invisible barrier. He was unable to see what was happening in the palaces. Cultivator Qin Nan, the feast will be held in the main hall. I hope you can attend it. The young disciple brought Qin Nan into a palace and handed him a golden invitation before leaving the place. Friend Qin Nan. Brother Nan. Meanwhile, Su Xianji, Qiu Hong, and the Blood-Eye human immortal arrived after receiving the news. Unlike usual, Su Xianji was wearing a long blue dress. Her breasts were exposed, and a faint golden jade was hanging on her collarbone. After ascending as an immortal, her aura had become even more ethereal. Her pair of beautiful eyes had a faint luster that felt as pure as crystal, giving off an inexplicable attraction. Wan Zhao's eyes were filled with astonishment. Even Qin Nan could not help but take a few more glances at her. In comparison, Qiu Hong and the blood-eye human immortal did not look any different. However, they were emitting wisps of immortal auras, making them look like immortals. Isn't that the purple-golden godly bird? Su Xianji's gaze landed on Wan Zhao with a hint of curiosity. The purple-golden godly bird was one of the ancient tribes. She had seen it before, thus she was not surprised. However, she had a feeling that she had seen the purple-golden godly bird somewhere before. Qin Nan, you mustn't tell Xianji. Wan Zhao completely panicked. He immediately transmitted his voice to Qin Nan. If Xianji knew he was being treated as a mount, he would have no hope of marrying Qin Nan. I found it by chance. For some reason, the bird kept clinging to me. I couldn't get rid of it. Qin Nan said with a calm smile, so I decided to keep it as my mount. Wan Zhao felt like vomiting blood upon hearing this. How could this Qin Nan be so shameless? Su Xianji and the others raised their heads and looked into the distance as if they sensed something. Qin Nan sharply sensed the energy too. He raised his head and looked into the distance. Whoosh! An urgent voice echoed in the enormous city, startling the cultivators in the city. Following it, a faint yellow glow soared into the sky from one of the palaces in the palaces of elites. The glow shattered into pieces and turned into the pattern of an enormous chessboard. Since I have nothing better to do, who dares to play a game with me using their god force? Of course. Chapter 1653. The illusionary immortal Dao Gate. The cultivators in the spacious Dao City were astounded. No one thought someone would be playing chess in the city during such a grand occasion. Even though the person was a peerless genius of the palaces of elites, it was easy for him to offend the other peerless geniuses and experts. Normally, peerless geniuses would be able to do whatever they wanted in the small immortal realms, but they were no longer able to do so today. No one knew what kind of people were hiding in the enormous Dao City. That guy is indeed a troublemaker. Qiu Hong harumphed. His eyes flickered with disgust. Who's that guy? Qin Nan was intrigued. He turned around and asked. The moment the glowing chessboard was set up, he could already tell that it contained a shocking illusionary intent. Normally, the illusionary intent was used to confuse people, but the illusionary intent was different. It was imperious and murderous. The first core disciple of one of the 13 supreme Taoism factions, the illusionary immortal Dao Gate, Xiu Shunliang. The disgust in Qiu Hong's eyes thickened. He said, "The guy has a strange personality. He would always mock his opponents regardless of their cultivation." When he arrived at the illusionary immortal Dao Gate yesterday, Xiu Shunliang had already mocked him. He almost fought him. Su Xianji giggled and said, "The guy is indeed strange, but he was born with a pair of mysterious wings. He's a very powerful peerless genius." Before Qin Nan could speak, a few cultivators flew into the sky from the city. "If you're interested in playing chess, I'll play around with you. Cultivator, since you're in the mood, how could I not entertain you?" These cultivators were all at the peak of the heavenly god realm. They had a deep understanding of Go. In their opinion, Xiu Shunliang was being too arrogant by setting up a chess game in the city and asking everyone to join him. They had to teach him a lesson with chess. However, the instant their figures landed on the illusory chessboard, they suddenly sensed something, causing their expressions to change greatly. Bang! Bang! Boom! 3 loud sounds rang out, and the 3 of them cried out miserably. Their minds were attacked by a powerful will, and they couldn't help but fly backwards and crash into the city. This person actually dares to attack? The cultivators were astonished. After all, the flowing moon Dao City didn't allow violence. These 3 people are still too defenseless. However, most of the cultivators sighed softly in their hearts. It was true that fighting was not allowed in the Flowing Moon Dao City, but it had never been said that cultivators were not allowed to use their martial wills to suppress their opponents. Furthermore, under the agreement of both parties, it was allowed to use force. You dare to play chess with me with this little bit of ability? Xiao Shenliang's disdainful voice echoed in the city. Besides, the three of you are too stupid. Do you really think I'm here to play Go? I'm just looking for an excuse to teach these ants a lesson. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of many cultivators changed slightly. This cultivator was simply too arrogant. The meaning behind his words was clearly that he was treating them like ants. Ba, Cultivator Xiao, your aura is too vicious. You should join the ancient Bodhi temple. Otherwise, you will be in great trouble. A Bodhi chant echoed in the sky above the Dao City. A benevolent-looking old man wearing a white monk robe with wisps of Bodhi glow around him walked down from the sky and landed on the chessboard within the blink of an eye. An invisible will burst out once again, but the old man was not affected at all. His white robe drifted in the wind. If Cultivator Xiao is the one who set up the chessboard, I won't go easy on you. The old man's eyes suddenly emitted a golden light. His appearance rapidly changed until he turned into a young man with delicate features. His aura skyrocketed too. He pointed his finger at the rift. Bang! A giant black chess piece appeared and shook the place vigorously. Xiao Shenliang, you're too full of yourself. I've long wanted to teach you a lesson. Right at this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded. A long-haired young man in a tattered robe with sharp eyes like a pair of godly swords walked onto the chessboard. He immediately unleashed his cultivation and pointed his finger forward. Blinding rays soared into the sky and formed a giant black chess piece on the other side. In an instant, the two majestic wills seemed to have condensed into two peerless black dragons, clashing against the formless illusory will. A strong gust of wind surged in all directions. Even though no one was using any immortal art, everyone could sense the terrifying clash of intents taking place. That person is Yu Mingfo, a peerless genius of the ancient Bodhi temple. He's only second to Long Chan among the core disciples. Rumors say that his true appearance is a woman. The Blood-Eye human immortal transmitted his voice to Qin Nan in a hall of the palaces of elites. The other person is Qin Yuanzi, a core disciple of the Sanqing ancient sect. He once killed a peerless genius. He had been collecting information about the peerless geniuses in addition to achieving the human immortal realm. He was trying to inform Qin Nan so the latter would know what was going on. Qin Nan expressed his gratitude and continued to observe the chessboard. He was eager to see how Xiao Shenliang was going to deal with the crowd after setting up the chessboard. TSK, two peerless geniuses are trying to pick a fight with me. Xiao Shenliang chuckled and said, "But you too, you must remember that I don't have the right to remember your names, be it in the past or in the future." A strong gust of wind rose on the chessboard as soon as the word was spoken. Countless gods floated between the heavens and earth with different expressions, like a kingdom of gods. Yu Mingfo chanted a Buddhist proclamation loudly when he heard this, and he remained indifferent. On the other hand, Qin Yuanzi laughed coldly. Is that so? The two men's figures changed at the same time, and the black chess pieces landed one after another at the same time, like exploding thunder. However, the chessboard only shook slightly. It did not show any sign of cracking. The white ghost stones that appeared like phantoms were as immovable as mountains, unable to be shaken. Xiao Shenliang's cultivation is indeed incomparable to ordinary peerless geniuses. The cultivators were astounded upon seeing this. Even though they hated the man, they could not help but admit how outstanding his cultivation was. Chapter 1654. Black and White Pieces. A young man with short golden hair, pitch-black eyes, and a face full of scars wearing an ancient beast armor strode into the city from the entrance. His aura was immeasurable like an abyss. In particular, the faintly discernible nirvana intent that emanated from his body caused the void to tremble. Even Yu Mingfo and the Tao servant Qing Yuanzi paled in comparison before him. Luo Yen is here. Many cultivators in the city fixed their eyes on the figure. Even Qin Nan was not surprised. His eyes flickered with astonishment. He sensed a mysterious energy ripple inside Luo Yan's body. It was similar to the energy inside Su Xianji's body, yet it was different in nature. Luo Yan, the strongest core disciple of the superfluous lifeless sect, one of the 13 supreme Taoism factions. He was born with the flesh of nirvana. The blood-eye human immortal lowered his voice. He's very imperious. Rumors say he has already reached the threshold of the Tao realm. He's trying to achieve the minor success stage of the Tao realm. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. The cultivation of the strongest core disciples of the supreme Taoism factions had completely exceeded his expectations. He could not afford to underestimate them. There are 13 supreme Taoism factions in the 9 heavens immortal realm. I wonder how many of their strongest core disciples will be here? Qin Nan murmured. Meanwhile, on the chessboard in the air, Luo Yan made his move. He flicked a black chess piece. Its overwhelming will encapsulated the will of Yu Mingfo and Qing Yuanzi and turned them into a peerless sword. One after another, the white ghost stones suddenly became dull and lifeless. Luo Yan, how bold of you! I don't mind telling you, you're not even an ant in my eyes. Xiao Shunliang, who was in one of the palaces, did not forget to mock Luo Yan even though the pressure he was under was multiplied. He unleashed his illusionary will. Xiao Shunliang, you still dare to act tough under the circumstances. 2 loud roars took place. 2 wisps of magnificent will burst out from 2 of the palaces and entered the chessboard. One of them had a tremendous murderous intent, like a peerless immortal. The other was filled with raging flames, as if it wanted to incinerate everything. The 2 peerless geniuses were displeased by Xiao Shunliang's smug attitude. They immediately attacked him. Fellow Taoists, do you think that my illusory immortal Tao gate has no one? A displeased voice echoed in the air. Another illusionary intent that was different from Xiao Shunliang's turned into white chess pieces. He was the other true disciple of the illusionary immortal Tao gate, a peerless genius. Even though the genius was not fond of Xiao Shunliang, he had no choice but to lend him a hand in this matter. Haha, chess. I don't know how to play chess, so don't even think about playing chess for me. Suddenly, there was a burst of laughter. A 10 feet tall young man with a face full of purple tattoos suddenly landed in the middle of the chessboard. The young man raised his hands and unleashed 2 wisps of will attacking the peerless geniuses. Most importantly, a Tao glow was emitting from the center of his palm. Qin Nan was very familiar with the man. He was one of the 2 core disciples of the South World Immortal Emperor, Ding Tianqi, with a broken personality. However, the latter's martial arts had improved again. He had achieved the minor success stage of the Tao realm. Minor success stage of the Tao realm? The eyes of the cultivators widened. They could not believe it. Ding Tianqi, you've achieved the minor success stage of the Tao realm? Luo Yan was startled too. His aura skyrocketed once again as he collected his thoughts. However, I, Luo Yan, have to tell you that even someone in the minor success stage of the Tao realm is no match against me. He performed a hand seal and unleashed the will of destruction in his body. Ding Tianqi, even if you've achieved the minor success stage of the Tao realm, it's nothing in front of me. You dare to interfere with my chess game, piss off. Despite saying that, Xiao Shunliang's figure tensed as he raised his will to the limit. He had only probed the threshold of the Tao realm. Bang! 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 The sound of claps of thunder echoed across the city. No one would have thought that Xiao Shunliang's provocation would turn into a chaotic battle. The black and white chess pieces were placed one after another. The black chess pieces had the upper hand at times, while the white chess pieces had the upper hand at times. A white chess piece suddenly shattered Yu Mingfao's black chess piece. The latter groaned and took a few steps back, as if he had received a great blow. Xiao Shunliang, the immortal ancient place has yet to be revealed. You're only playing a game of Go, yet you dare to use such a powerful move? If that's the case, allow me to play with you. An imperious voice said. Following it, a terrifying will soared into the sky from a palace and shook the street. Many cultivators were startled. It was the will of an earth immortal authority. What is it? Trying to bully the weak when you're not as strong as the others? Another dignified snort exploded. A terrifying will that seemed to have turned into the giant hand of an immortal dragon and blocked that will. A strong gust of wind immediately swept across the entire Dao city. The Earth Immortal Authority of the illusionary Immortal Dao Gate had made his move. Fellow cultivators, it's a battle between the human immortals and the immortals of the immortal ancient place. Isn't it inappropriate for us old folks to interfere? A pleasant voice said from the other side. I agree, we're going to be the laughingstock of the world if others know about it. What laughingstock? It has nothing to do with the Sanqing ancient sect that the old bald donkey couldn't wait any longer. If that's the case, why don't we start the battle right away? Following the voices, several terrifying auras soared into the sky. The walls and the ground of the spacious flowing Moon Dao city began to emit a dreamy glow to resist the impact of the will. As for the cultivators in the city, their faces paled slightly. The chaotic battle between the peerless geniuses had already left them in awe. How could they possibly stand a chance against the will of the Earth Immortals? This was especially true for the faintly discernible terrifying storm that was about to arrive. This caused them to tremble with fear, and they wished they could leave immediately. Fellow cultivators, if you want to fight, why don't we wait until the world of yin and yang is over? At that instant, an old voice overpowered the will of the peerless geniuses. Before that, please give me some face and stay calm. Even though these few words did not carry any authority, they seemed to possess some sort of magical power that instantly caused the surging aura to vanish, returning it to its original state. Chapter 1655. At the Grand Banquet. So what if he's a peerless ruler? I'm only inviting them to a game of chess. Why is the Nine-Palace Golden Immortal Sect interfering? Xiao Shunliang's mocking voice echoed again. Even though he was already thinking of backing away from a peerless ruler, he did not back down with his words. However, he was stopped before he could finish. An elder of the illusionary Immortal Dao Gate stopped him. Senior Immortal Emperor, since you've said so, we won't do it. The elder of the illusionary Immortal Dao Gate immediately expressed his stand. The elders of the other supreme Taoism factions agreed too. Luo Yen and the peerless geniuses left and entered the city. Thank you, fellow cultivators. Following the ancient voice, a great force shattered the glowing chessboard in the air into pieces. The flowing Moon Dao city returned to normal. Who would have thought that an immortal ancient place would have a peerless ruler guarding it? Yeah, I can't wait to find out how many peerless geniuses have come to the world of yin and yang. Hee, I heard that the Nine-Palace Golden Immortal Sect will be placing bets at the banquet tonight. We will find out soon. The cultivators collected their thoughts and discussed among themselves. The atmosphere in the city gradually became livelier after the farce that Xiao Shunliang had stirred up. In the Hall of Elites, Qin Nan and the others chatted among themselves. Qiu Hong, Su Xianji, and the Blood-Eye human immortal told Qin Nan a lot of secret. It was a great eye-opener for him. He now had a better understanding of the immortal ascension tide. After all, he had only been to 2 immortal ancient places. There were still many things that he was not familiar with. Time gradually passed. It was soon night. Cultivator Qin Nan, the banquet has begun. I'll show you the way. The disciple of the Nine Palace Golden Immortal sect showed up again. Qin Nan nodded and followed him. A while later, Qin Nan and the others arrived at the main hall where the banquet was being held. The main hall was located at the center of the Hall of Elites. It covered an area of over 1,000 zhang. The entrance was covered in red feathers, with a few beautiful women on both sides. Cultivators were approaching from all directions. These cultivators all had extraordinary auras. Most of them had reached the peak of the human immortal realm, while a few of them had reached the earth immortal realm. These were the elders of the 13 Supreme Taoism Orthodoxy. Qin Nan walked into the hall and immediately saw the candles hanging on the walls, as well as the ancient incense burning in the incense burner. They all exuded a shocking immortal aura, which made people feel comfortable. It was no exaggeration to say that this palace was equivalent to a treasure trove. The Nine Palace Golden Immortal sect is indeed the wealthiest among the 13 Supreme Taoism factions. They even decorated such a luxurious banquet. Qin Nan clicked his tongue inwardly. He glanced around, and his expression immediately froze. At this moment, there were already more than 200 cultivators in the hall, and they were seated at various jade tables. Apart from human immortals and earthly immortals, there were dozens of heavenly immortals. Xiao Shunliang, Luo Yan, Yu Mingfo, and the rest of the peerless geniuses were all present too. Most importantly, Qin Nan sharply sensed a few unfamiliar auras among them. They were on par with Yu Mingfo and the others. Qin Nan, that's the supreme elder of the superfluous lifeless sect, the Snowbrow Heaven Immortal. The woman with a veil is Heaven Immortal Fanine of the Heaven Illusionary Ancestor sect. The one sitting beside her is a peerless genius. The Blood-Eye Human Immortal transmitted his voice to Qin Nan. Apart from gathering information about the peerless geniuses, the Blood-Eye Human Immortal also spent a lot of effort to gather information about the factions that the Supreme Taoism factions had sent. Qin Nan nodded while observing the crowd secretly. As time gradually passed, the number of cultivators in the hall continued to increase, causing Qin Nan to inhale deeply. There were more than 30 peerless geniuses that had shown up. Lin Qingpa. Why is he here? Is he still an immortal? An uproar broke out in the hall all of a sudden. The cultivators immediately looked in the direction of the voice. Even Xiao Shunliang, Luo Yan, and the rest of the peerless geniuses turned their heads toward the voice too. They saw a young man with only one arm and long hair walking toward the entrance of the hall expressionlessly. Beside the young man was a peerless genius that Qin Nan had met before, Gu Zhini. Someone from the Extreme Living Gate? Qin Nan squinted. Bai Fu was still being suppressed by the ownerless heaven pattern. He was still deriving the general outline of the true scriptures of the Extreme Living Tao. Qin Nan, not only is Lin Qingpa the strongest core disciple of the Extreme Living Gate, he's also one of the 7 elites of heavens and earth. His cultivation is extremely terrifying. The Blood-Eye Human Immortal said with a stern look. The 7 elites of heavens and earth? Qin Nan was startled. You didn't know? The Blood-Eye Human Immortal's eyes flickered with astonishment. He explained, the 7 elites of heavens and earth is a name that has been spreading among the cultivators. Not only are these 7 the strongest core disciples of the Supreme Taoism factions, they have also practiced the general outline of the Tao-seeking art and mastered the minor success stage of the Tao realm. Many cultivators believe that if the first immortal is born this time, it will definitely be one of the 7. The Blood-Eye Human Immortal added, however, the other 6 should have already achieved the human immortal realm. Qin Nan's eyes flickered upon hearing this. The 7 elites of heavens and earth, the strongest core disciples of the Supreme Taoism factions like Xiao Shunliang and Luo Yan, some other disciples of 9 heaven supremes, and people like Ding Tianqi. It seemed like the number of peerless geniuses in the 9 heavens immortal realm was a lot more than he had imagined. Lin Qingpe, you dare call yourself one of the 7 elites of heavens and earth with your cultivation? Xiao Shunliang spoke for the first time. His disdain was obvious. Lin Qingpe, I, Luo Yan, have to tell you that even though I hate Xiao Shunliang, what he said does make sense. Luo Yan picked up a cup and said coldly, if you're not convinced, I'm more than willing to entertain you once we enter the world of yin and yang. Lin Qingpe wore a calm expression. The entire palace was immediately filled with the smell of gunpowder. In addition to the 3 peerless geniuses, the rest of the peerless geniuses were competing with one another too. Qin Nan raised his brows when he sensed a murderous intent. He quickly glanced in the direction of the voice. He initially thought it was Gu Zhini, yet to his surprise, it was an ordinary-looking young man in a blue robe. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.